Okay. So then, I mean, goodness, there's so many things, eh? So let's start with this IMF story.
Okay.
And then I know we're going to discuss it more later. However, IMF terms on COVID-19 millionaires, it's carried on page 4 of the Standard today. And they've said, we're giving you our money. This is what you will do. IMF wants the names of owners of companies that won KEMSA tenders published in the Public Procurement Information Portal. Kenya has until tomorrow midnight to reveal the names of owners of companies that benefited from the controversial 7.8 billion shillings KEMSA scandal. The ultimatum was given by the International Monetary Fund, which wants the government to lay bare the owners of companies that were contracted by the Kenya Medical and Supplies Authority as part of an agreement they struck in the ongoing 256 million shilling program. The Washington-based institution noted that while KEMSA published reports with information on awarded contracts and beneficial ownership of the companies, the same had not been put in the Public Procurement Information Portal to be accessed by the members of the public. This key planned step should be implemented as a matter of priority, according to the IMF, putting the date on this publication to the end of June, which is tomorrow. Publication of the names might unmask some of the shadowy wheeler dealers that have lined their pockets at the expense of citizenry that has been hit hard by the crippling effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. In its second review of the program, the IMF said the revelations of widespread breaking of procurement laws, the government had to speedily investigate and prosecute those who were responsible for looting of public funds at the medical agency. So this is what they're saying. In as much as it had been revealed in some quarters, in order for you to be open and honest about your dealings as a government, this information, these names of these individuals who benefited from this thing, whether or not you're prosecuting at this point, make it public. Tell Kenyans, these are the people who took your money. Let them know.
So they've now become our lords now because they've given us money.
Yes, no.
Yeah?
He who pays the piper.
No,
my dear.
No.
When you were collecting the money, you said that you want.
No. Where is our sovereignty? Where does it begin? Where does it end?
Where was your sovereignty when you were begging for money
from you? IMF. I am a member of the World Bank. I am a member of the IMF. It doesn't mean that you become my boss.
When you were begging for the money, you said
we didn't beg.
You even laid on the ground and said,
we applied.
Here is my back, work on me.
We applied for the money. And these things that they're telling us to do, we, in our own ingenuity, created the Public Procurement Information Portal.
But what do they do
as a matter of transparency and promoting transparency in the country?
What do they do as IMF? The things that exist within your country, within your government structure, they use that to keep you... use that to keep you authentic and genuine.
Can you imagine if you went to a commercial bank today, you applied for a loan, right? You called it whatever. Or even you went to a SACCO, you applied for a loan. It's a development loan. And then they say, bring the receipts of everything that you've bought in this house development. They want to see your spending
behavior and patterns.
After they've given you the money.
They're giving you their money.
What did you want to do? It's a self-developmental.
I don't think
then they're saying, everything that you've bought, can you come and account for it? Look, boss, I'm going to pay you your money.
This revelation.
I borrowed for development. I know my development.
This revelation, I'm telling you, it's not today that government of Kenya is hearing about it. I am positive that it was not a suggestion that came out of the blue yesterday. By the time they were taking the money, they knew that this is what they were going to be asked to do.
Yeah.
There are conditions now. It's my house. They're my rules.
We'll discuss this in detail. I have no problem at all with the push for more transparency and accountability, especially when it comes to this kind of money. We were fighting COVID-19, and I said at the very beginning that at the end of this, I hope we're going to have a proper audit, not just of how money was spent, but also of decision-making. At what point did we know what and what did we do, right? Did we did we make the right decisions at the right time? We need to have that audit. However, I'm taking issue with this semblance of orders coming from other quarters, where somebody else who has just lent us money is coming to tell our government that we have elected and placed in office that this I want by midnight. What? No, you don't give me ultimatums.
Wow, but you want the money, eh?
Yeah. Give me money, don't give me ultimatums.
Wow.
Sheesh. Boss. You've come too much, these ones. Hi. Before we take a break, now that there's cold pressure coming from IMF to the government. There's also cold weather pattern that's coming into the country, and the weatherman says this will last until August this year. So health experts and meteorological officials are cautioning Kenyans to brace for increased upper respiratory tract infections triggered by the cold weather. So what's going to happen is we are going to have chilly weather, and people are going to huddle together in warm places or seeking warmth, and they are going to transmit cold and flu viruses to one another. So that's what they're saying. Dr. Josephine Ojigo, a pediatrician at the Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Technical and Referral Hospital in Kisumu, said there's increased number of children with cough and difficulty in breathing. She says during cold weather, children tend to present with common colds, influenza, flu, breathing difficulties, and those who are asthmatic tend to have their symptoms worsen. She noted that people usually close their rooms, causing viral infections to circulate within, also contributing to COVID-19 infections. Children are also exposed to poisoning, mainly from carbon monoxide, because a number of families will use GCOs for cooking, and then parents should observe disease prevention protocols like basic hygiene to avoid overcrowding and observe ventilation. This is what's likely to happen. You enter matatu, the thing that really annoys Zachary in Nakuru. Enter a matatu and keep the windows closed.
Yeah,
because
it's cold.
Hey,
man.
boy, I'm sitting by the window. That whole thing is hitting my face.
Open the window.
No,
Ventilation, I beg. Open the window.
Matatu should create a window up there, not where it's right in my face that can open.
True.
So now people are not going to be opening the windows in matatus because it's cold and it's raining.
It's
raining.
Mixing inside
So
there.
you're all in there, poor ventilation. It's cold. One person has a flu or a cold or whatever. Sneezes, spreads. So be very, very cautious around this time. Make sure, especially now that you know about wearing a mask, wear a mask when you're in public transports.
Okay.
Sindio?
Sawa.
So that's a good advice.
Yes.
Okay, so let's take a break on that note. Okay. Let's talk about jobs.
Okay. Let's do that.
Jobs.standardmedia.co.ke. This is a portal that has been created by Standard Media Group to help you get jobs and also to help those who are looking for workers to get the best workers. So the whole idea behind creating the jobs.standardmedia.co.ke was basically to link those people up and also to make sure that people also get advice and proper advice on how to apply for jobs, what to do in interviews, career progression and all. So some of the jobs that have been posted today, there's a company called Sheer Logic, and it's looking for a project officer internship. Well, they're offering internship for project officer. Sheer Logic. So the logical thing to do for you right now is open that website, click on that one and see what they need. Java House is looking for a steward. Who's that?
A steward. It's a fancy name for a waiter.
Oh, really? All right. So Java House is looking for stewards. Senior Finance Officer by the World Vision, Kenya. They're looking for that. Hivos East Africa is looking for Voice Communications Amplifier Officer.
Wow.
And what is that?
That's really fancy.
Voice Communications Amplifier Officer. Open that one. Let's see.
Sounds like a piece of hardware.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I actually thought they were looking for like equipment. Then I thought, no, these are jobs they're looking for. They're looking for an officer, Voice Communications Amplifier Officer. So probably they're looking, it's a communications officer.
It's somebody, so to key in voices internal communication through maintaining the website and sharing knowledge between team members.
Right.
Web person. Told you it was
Not
fancy.
necessarily.
Responsible for creating, posting, and updating content in a
It's
timely and
basically a
detailed
social
manner and
media
through
person.
internal groups of communities of practice. Yeah.
It's a social media person.
is.
Somebody who basically posts communication that will be seen internally and externally. Lead on prompt and effective editing and posting of content on the Voice Bilingual website, including calls for proposals, grantees, stories, news, and the linking and learning components. For the French component, you will liaise with the communications amplifier and other officer external. I think Voice is a platform.
I think they use amplifier.
Yeah, Voice is a platform.
Yeah.
And so they want somebody who will amplify the communication on this voice platform. Voice Communications Amplifier Officer. apply for that one. It's 28 minutes to 7. Let's take a look at traffic shortly. Good morning.
24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Losing a loved one is never easy. The lingering memories, the what-ifs. But in all the gloom, we find ways of celebrating them. And here at the Standard Tributes, we aim to give your loved ones that befitting send-off. Visit www.standardmedia.co.ke/tributes today and post your loved one's tribute. In addition, get access to funeral services from our trusted vendors. The Standard Tributes, keeping memories alive.
You know, when you see someone being jailed, a governor or two or someone who stole, then people will fear. Because our problem is not the borrowing, it's the stealing.
We've become actually a nation of thieves. The only thing we lack is an opportunity to steal.
The guys who quote the Bible and say I'm a Christian and all that, and you know they're thieves. Return what you have stolen 4 times. If you know that you have property or anything that you have stolen, just return and say, my God does not allow me to hold stolen things.
We are also a reflection of you, because you elect us. You know, we don't get into our office by ourselves. We are a reflection of the people who elect us.
We don't want to go to the streets. We have a constitution that enables us, assert our will.
When the legislators are now being taken as hostage by the executive for whatever reason, we are now bound by what they want us to do.
This is just outside the realms of reality. We have impunity written into the DNA of our political class.
How old were you when you learned that Jeshi Lokop is Jeshi Lawokov?
I can't say it very well. No, you to Jeshi Lokop.
And everyone knows. Okay.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
All right, so Uhuru Highway today, all the way from Westlands through to the Nyayo Stadium roundabout, in and outbound, we will see heavy traffic. Now, within Mlolongo, between the Way Bridge and the SGR, huge traffic already this morning. We know that certain parts of the road have already started in terms of their construction, so this is going to slow things down considerably. We need to watch out for that. It's going to hold up quite a lot of traffic that is coming from the outskirts of Nairobi into the city, and there will be traffic this morning. So folks are having to leave earlier and earlier, and we will see that traffic clog up for some time. Kiambu Road also quite heavy, trying to join the Muthaiga Square, out then into the CBD. The service lanes not looking too bad this morning. Use those. Wangari Maathai Road also getting into the CBD a lot better. However, remember that you cannot access the Museum Hill ramp. You must then go round. Muthaiga Road coming out of Westlands has been the savior for a lot of folks this morning, but we already see that it's jam-packed today as you then try to connect with Thika Road. This will be the case for the next 3 weeks, at least, until we're told otherwise. So we need to plan early and know where we are going. Let's take in more details about how things are looking. The bypass is not looking too bad right now. Eastern, Southern, Red Hill, and Northern looking all right. Outer Ring as well, not looking too bad now. Let's see how things are building up on Jogo Road in a bit. SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Spice FM, Malindi. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
As we continue, let's acknowledge those who are acknowledging as well online.
Let's do that. Good morning, Sir Haran. He says it's a chilly morning in Kisumu. So when it's chilly in Kisumu, that's like...
That's 23 degrees.
Yeah. It's like warm in Nairobi.
Mm-hmm.
Well, good morning to you. My soap bubble. Well, good morning. Says I may be in a dark place mentally and emotionally. This show is the best part of my day. Well, good morning. We're glad that you could join us. Hope everything is okay, my friend.
Yep.
Md Brownie Newton, Kahawa Sukari well represented this morning. Tick, tick, yes. Karibu Sana. Benson Mumo is locked in as well. Oliver Wa Ukunda, good morning. Fully tuned in from Diani. Karibu Sana. Healthy conversations all morning. Keep it up, buddies. You too, buddy. Ukwala is locked. That's Freddie Otaya. Charity Minor tuned in from Nakuru this morning at Milimani. Harold Ayodo is asking, does IMF know that we are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law? What if the names are published in a public portal, then courts Judge them innocent. Well, let's see. No, we've not gotten there yet. Just put the names first. Good people, good morning. Listening in from South Sea, that's Nixon Otieno. And Bay Wamacha is tuned in. Outer? Macha. Otieno Odero Jr. says, good morning from the Great Wall of Kino, Karibu Sana. And Collins Kiptai Kipsat. Good morning, everybody. Getting you clearly from Eldoret. Thank you for joining us this morning. Good morning.
Everybody, wherever you are, even those who are locked down in Australia, Karibuni Sana. Kwenye ukumbi. Looking at more headlines.
Yeah. So today is the day.
Yes.
That the appeals will begin as the 7 appellate judges will determine the mother of all court battles is what is being called. And so all eyes on them. Yesterday, the cases opened officially. Today is when the appeals will begin and the judges will begin to hear cases. The stage is set. The players have taken their positions and the referees are at the hand to determine what could be the mother of all court battles this year. That is the case of the Building Bridges initiative set to start today at the Court of Appeal, with all eyes on the 7 appellate judges who will determine whether the country will proceed to a referendum or uphold an earlier High Court decision that scuttled the process. So for the next 4 days, Kenyans will be treated to high-octane legal arguments, similar to what was witnessed during the presidential election petitions at the Supreme Court in 2013 and 2017, when ODM leader Raila Odinga challenged President Uhuru Kenyatta's victory. So, just like the presidential election petitions, the BBI appeal has drawn the creme de la creme in the legal profession, with a senior counsel expected to square it out with young, enterprising lawyers spoiling for a fight. It'll be fun to watch. But unlike in the presidential election petition, the 2 former political foes turned friends have assembled one team to save their BBI constitutional amendment bill pet project. And the appeal emanated from a decision by High Court Judge Joel Gogi, George Odunga, Jairus Nga, Chacha Mwita and Teresia Matheka on the 13th of May, declaring that the BBI process was illegal, unconstitutional, null and void.
And a waste of our time.
And a waste of our time. So the 7 appellate judges who will determine this, we have Daniel Musinga, Cairo Gatembu, Rosalind Naboye, Fatima Sichale, Hannah Okwengu, Francis Tuyot, and Patrick Kiage. So it's given an account of all of them and what they've been able to achieve in their legal professions. And they are the ones who will essentially decide this. And the next 4 days, I think, yes, will be riveting.
Let's see how they split it. Look at the lawyers, okay? For President Uhuru Kenyatta, Waweru Gatonye Senior Counsel, Mohamed Nyaoga, Desterio Oyatsi, Tom Macharia. Okay? For Raila and the National BBI Secretariat, James Orengo, Paul Mwangi, Otiende Amolo, Ben Sihanya, Professor, Jackson Awele, Arnold Oginga. For IBC, Professor Gedhu Muigai and Eric Gumbo. For the Attorney General, Solicitor General Kennedy Ogeto, George Oraro, Senior Counsel, Paul Nyamodi and Kamau Karori. Against the BBI, John Haminwa for the Kenya Human Rights Commission, LSK President Nelson Havi for economist David Ndii and others, Elias Mutuma for Third Way Alliance, Dudley Ochiel, Morara Omoke, Michael Karanja, Mudhomi Thiankolu and Charles Kanjama. Interesting one, right?
Very, very, very.
In the case of Charles Kanjama, yesterday, Charles Kanjama had in the first case wanted to be enjoined in the case, and the judges had refused to enjoin him in the case. In this particular appeal, Charles Kanjama had appealed as well, and yesterday the judges told him, look, boss, first of all, you're not party to this case, so you cannot be coming to appeal on a case that you're not party to. What we can listen is you appealing against the decision of the judges to let you in the case in the first place. That's all we can hear. All right, and we shall listen to you. I think on the 2nd or something. But the case of you coming to tell us whether a BBI is good or bad,
no thanks.
That we are not going to allow you to do. Okay, so Kanjama's case.
Out.
Yes. Let's see how this one pans out. It's going to be an interesting one. We'll have a conversation about this at 8 o'clock with constitutional lawyer Waiko Wanyoike, looking at what he expects to see, the arguments 2 and 4, or 4 or and against this particular move to have constitutional amendments through the constitutional amendment bill and the BBI process. It's going to be an interesting one. As we're still in the courts, the Chief Justice wants courts to open up to 9 p.m. to clear cases. The CJ said the judiciary and courts will have to undergo a radical change, which includes extending the time that they are open to deal with backlog of cases. Speaking during the second annual symposium for tribunals in Mombasa, Chief Justice Martha Koome said the courts should come up with innovative ways to deal with delayed cases. We hope to see innovations in courts, including the commercial courts and the anti-corruption and economic crimes courts, adopting night court shifts and courts sitting up to 9 p.m. She said this will lead to improved performance and ensure cases are resolved in real time. She said the Supreme Court must be the pace setter in adopting the proposed changes. We in the Supreme Court must clear our own backlog of cases. The CJ said the judiciary has been viewed as an institute characterized by delays despite being short of capacity required to render services. So she's saying, yes, we have all these challenges. We don't have all the stuff that we need. We don't have all the facilities that we need, but can we just be creative with what we have? We have life. Can we sit longer? Can we have night shifts? Can we say that we're extending our sitting hours? Can we say that some courts are even sitting at night and telling those who have cases before them, come at 9 p.m., I'm ready to listen to you. Right. Can we see that just so we can clear the backlog of cases? And I think that whole question of backlog of cases is very important for access to justice.
It is.
Because backlog of cases means something. It means that you wanted to transact in one way or the other. There was a court injunction. You're not transacting. What you had planned to do has been put on hold. Or you were arrested and taken to court, charged with something. You've been remanded and your case is taking too long.
And you're still on the inside.
Yep, you're still on the inside. This is what it means. It just means that as long as there's a case pending in court, somebody is not getting their due justice. And that is very, 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 very wrong. 7:15, another time for another quick break, and then we look at more headlines. Good morning.
"24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Living isn't just breathing. Living is about taking it all in. Living is not just getting by. Living is taking the roads less traveled. Living isn't just eating. Living is about the art of wining and dining. Living isn't just doing the mundane. Living is about savoring the finer things in life. Because living is not a chore. Living is an art. In the new season of The Art of Living, we explore unearthed gems and discover what makes them home away from home. Join Nailante Kenga as she engages with exciting guests and tours the most exclusive destinations and homes every Sunday, 6 p.m. on KTN Home.
102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
There's a shortage of HIV test kits, and it spells the risk of increased mother-to-child infections, what we are being told. And also, we hear that the accuracy of Kenya's HIV tests is being queried. So let's look at both of these, because this could be a big deal. Now, it is a big deal because 2 women have sued for the misdiagnosis and treatment for HIV while they were negative. Can you imagine? Test is done. It's found to be positive. Turns out that you were negative. And all this time you were being treated for something that you did not have.
Yeah.
Not a really good showing. So, it all began on the 20th of July 2016 when EM, as she's identified in court papers, visited the Diani Health Center for a routine antenatal checkup. She was excited at the prospect of welcoming her second child until the results of an HIV test she took at the health center turned her world upside down. These results would also raise questions on the accuracy of similar tests being conducted in the country. With an affidavit by a laboratory specialist filed in court saying the algorithm the country uses in testing is short of World Health Organization and Center for Disease Control and Prevention requirements. Can you believe it? EM and another woman identified in court papers as AWM are at the heart of a case where 2 hospitals said the state have been sued for wrong HIV diagnosis and subsequent treatment for an ailment. So, misdiagnosed and then being treated for something that you did not have. Those sued are the Thika Level 5 Hospital, Health CS Mutai Kagwe, Diani Health Center, Msambweni County Referral Hospital, and Attorney General Kiara Karaoke. According to court documents, on the 20th of July 2016, EM was at Diani Health Center for a routine antenatal visit, and she was tested alongside other expectant mothers. She says a nurse did the test, and the result was that she was HIV positive. The nurse allegedly requested that she brings her spouse and their 1-year-old child for testing. Their test results were negative, but another staff member is the one who carried out those tests. She claims the nurse who tested her was a counselor by training with a 2-week training certificate, and without known medical lab training background, the hospital relied on the HIV test given to me to administer antiretroviral therapy to my 1-year-old at the time.
Wow.
The ARV has permanently changed the life of my entire family in all aspects. So you can imagine she's giving ARVs to her 1-year-old because she's still breastfeeding, and there's a high chance of mother-to-child transmission through breast milk. So ARVs, the 1-year-old child is on them. She is on them. And you can imagine the social structure just completely changed because people are hormonal and all kinds of things. And of course, she had an HIV tag placed on her for a misdiagnosis. So she said, you know what? We are going to court. She says that she claims it was known she did not have HIV. The hospital demanded that she returns all the medical records and medicine for destruction. And she says this was meant to conceal evidence after they now found out from a second test that actually she was not HIV positive. And because, in succession, they do tests to check, how things are. And then they find out, hold on a minute.
No,
she's negative.
It's coming out negative.
Good grief.
But, okay, so you do one test, it comes out as a false positive.
You do one test, it comes out as positive, and then from there...
false positive,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And then,
But
of course,
they
you
took it
get
for
immediately,
positive.
you go immediately into antiretroviral therapy
Yes.
and everything, and you change your lifestyle to basically live with this.
Yeah.
And then you do another test later, and you find, no, actually,
I'm negative.
it's likely to happen in very many cases.
But in this case, the hospital asked her to bring all the medication that she had been using and destroy it so that they could basically, seal all loopholes for any kind of trace, which was the problem here. So it would appear as though they knew that she was negative. They were kind of waiting for her to kind of figure it out. So you can see the malpractice that was played here.
That's a big one.
How many things would you deal with? You deal with the stigma. You deal with having to put your child on medication that they did not need. You yourself, also medication that you did not need, potentially harming your unborn child. The social structure falls apart because you're always fighting now with your spouse.
Yep.
I mean.
It's traumatic. I cannot even begin to imagine what would go through.
So now the question is, tests around the country.
Yeah.
If they're below the World Health Organization and the CDC requirements, how many more people in the country today have been said to be positive and are not, or have said to be negative and are positive? That's the question, and I think that's now the bone of contention. Look, these 2 cases, they've come out and they're quite vocal about it. How many more like this have gone unsaid?
I'm sure if City was here, would have given us very many experiences that he's gone through. I mean, because testing and then testing once, finding one result and testing again to find another result, I'm sure over the last 20 or 4 years, it has happened many times.
Yeah.
Now, what happens in that case? And is it indicative of the quality of test kits that you have? Does it speak negatively of the entire process of procurement of test kits and checking of test kits? What does it mean? Let's see how that one pans out. In Kakamega, patients have been left to own devices as hospital runs out of oxygen. And here, own devices is both figurative and...
True. Reality.
An acute oxygen shortage at Kakamega County General Teaching and Referral Hospital has forced relatives with patients to carry their own cylinders to save their loved ones. An insider at the facility who sought anonymity has told the nation that patients have to supplement the biting oxygen supply at the hospital. Last week, 6 families were asked to bring oxygen cylinders so their loved ones could be admitted, pointing to the crisis gripping the Lake region where health facilities are running out of oxygen. The available oxygen cylinders at the facility are empty. Of the 6 families, only 1 was able to supply the oxygen cylinders to save the life of their loved one. Those unable to afford the oxygen cylinders are forced to turn to other facilities. This anonymous person says, I know of a case where a patient was asked to pay a deposit of 20,000 shillings to get a bed space at a local hospital. They were then told to look for another 50,000 shillings for treatment. The source also raises concern over testing kits at the referral hospital, saying they are to expire next month. Last week, a COVID-19 patient died while waiting to get a bed at the hospital's isolation center. Kakamega has reported 24 deaths this month following a surge in infections. In Kisumu, 88 deaths have been recorded in June, while at least 10 people have died of COVID-19 in Homa Bay County, 23 in Kericho, 12 in Bomet, 7 in Busia in the same period. Now, this is something that is not new, really, what we are hearing in terms of facilities running out of oxygen. This is a referral hospital.
Yep.
It's a county's referral hospital, the level 5. And then they are running out of this crucial commodity, oxygen.
With a low number of cases, mind you.
Yeah.
With a low number of cases.
The chairman of the Lake Region Economic Bloc is the governor of Kakamega County, Wycliffe Oparanya. He and the health pillar director, Rosemary Obara, have revealed that oxygen supply is still a major challenge for hospitals in the region. According to Dr. Obara, Siaya, which has been supplying oxygen to most hospitals in the Lake Region block, is now overstretched. Out of the 14 counties in the block, only Kisii, Siaya, Trans Nzoia, and Kericho have oxygen supply plants. Kisumu County, for instance, depends on Siaya and Kisii to get oxygen. Right now, they are restricting the supply to other counties. They're saying, we also have our own issues.
Issues,
we
yeah.
cannot really afford to
give you.
Basically. Yeah. You like the stories about teachers. Tell us this one.
Okay, so TSC calls teachers for pay talks days after Sosion exit.
Huh?
Already it's being said, okay, so we're waiting for him to leave, and now come, let's talk.
Now we can talk.
Now we can talk.
Huh?
So this comes despite a recent directive freezing salary increases in the public sector. The TSC has invited teachers' unions for salary talks only days after Friday's exit of fiery KNUT Secretary General Wilson Sosion. The talks with the KNUT, the Kenya Union for Post-Primary Education Teachers KUPET, and the Kenya Union of Special Needs Education Teachers KUSNET on the 2021-2025 collective bargaining agreement start today. TSC called the talks despite a recent directive freezing salary increases in the public sector. The terse invitation letter signed by Commission CEO Nancy Macharia states TSC will table its salary review offer, forming the basis for the negotiations. The unions have already presented their pay demands to the Commission. Currently, there are 330,671 teachers on the TSC payroll. The unions have in recent months been demanding a meeting with the teachers' employers, but TSC had not responded to their demands. The invitation letter, curiously, was dispatched on the 25th of June, the same day that the long-serving KNUT Secretary General resigned, just hours before the union elected new national officials.
Okay. Just this month, the union has written to the TSC twice, seeking urgent talks because the current deal is just days to expire. Also this month, the Salaries and Remuneration Commission has issued a directive freezing wage reviews for public servants for the next 2 years. Workers' unions have opposed the freeze and they're threatening to call strikes in protest. Now, when I saw that there's been this invitation to come and let's negotiate, come and let's reason together, says the TSC. Though your problems may be as high as Mount Himalayas.
We will bring them down to valleys.
And we are where we are as a country. we are dealing with, stretched resources and all, and this SRC has looked and said, okay, you know what? Even our own multilateral lenders,
Well
it's a
done.
vaccine. Even those multilateral lenders have said,
blame it on the vaccine.
watch your spend. SRC has said, let's freeze any salary increment for public workers for the next 2 years. So unless now we're saying that the TSC is going to negotiate and then say implementation will commence after 2 years and shall not be backdated.
Or unless TSC had a little bit more in the bank and was keeping that close to their chest, and now that they see there's a little bit of pressure, say, okay, well, we might as well release it now.
Which bank?
Their war chest. Maybe.
There's no way. There's absolutely no. I don't know. I don't know why we're even having, because once you start having those conversations, then what? Maybe that's the way things are done. You start having the conversations. You have to present that whole idea to the teachers unions and agree that for the next 2 years we are not going to increase this, and then after that, this CBA shall kick off from 2020. 2 years or 2023. Yeah.
2 years from now is 2023.
2023. Before you take to go to the top of the hour, there's a story that's quite interesting here. There's a gentleman who's been set free by the courts because he strangled his cousin.
Because he strangled his cousin, they set him free.
Yes. So the story goes that this gentleman, his name is Dominic Karanja, who will not be imprisoned, but he will be free on condition that he maintains good conduct. He was living somewhere in Ruiru with his wife. He was married. He's in the house. The wife is outside. She's doing some chores before she gets into the house. The cousin, who was at that point 19-year-old, comes in drunk with another friend, and then they start seducing. The cousin starts seducing Karanja's wife. Wife screams, running towards the house. Karanja comes out. What's happening? She says, this guy, he's trying to do things. And then Karanja beats up the cousin and says, go home, and I'm coming to tell your parents what you've done. And they have a scuffle as he's trying to push the guy to go home. At the gate, chokes him by the neck. That strangle is like, they're wrestling.
Yeah.
Holds him for a bit too long. Young man dies. And then now in shock, they hide the body, they bury the body.
Sheesh.
He was arrested, he was taken to court. The judge listened to this case and was like, okay, I think, yes, it's manslaughter, but you are defending your wife. And for that reason, I'm not going to jail you.
Wow.
For that reason, the punishment, just whatever you've gone through
Time
is enough
served.
punishment. Obey the law and you shall live free.
Unbelievable.
Imagine. Keep it right here. Conversations continue into the next hour. This is a Situation Room broadcasting on SpiceFM. We are also live streaming the show, SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, www.spicefm.co.ke. It's now 7 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning, this is the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga. A 7-judge bench will today begin a 4-day hearing of appeals against the Supreme Court's decision to outlaw the BBI process. The panel's decision will determine whether the country will proceed to a referendum or not. The panel is presided over by Court of Appeal President Daniel Musinga, alongside Justices Rosalind Nambuye, Hannah Okwengu, Patrick Kiage, Gatembu Kairu, Fatuma Sichale, and Francis Tuyot. The appeal emanated from a decision by High Court Judge Joel Ngugi, George Odunga, Jairus Singa, Chacha Mwita, and Teresia Madeka on May, declaring the BBI process illegal, unconstitutional, null and void.
A declaration is hereby made that Mr. Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta has contravened Chapter 6 of the Constitution by initiating and promoting a constitutional change process contrary to the provisions of the Constitution on amendment of the Constitution. 8. A declaration is hereby made that the entire unconstitutional change process promoted by the Steering Committee on the Implementation of the Building Bridges to a United Kenya Task Force report is unconstitutional, null and void.
Negotiations for teachers' pay rise will begin today as the current collective bargaining agreement lapses tomorrow. The Teachers Service Commission has invited both the Kenya National Union of Teachers and Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers leaders to a meeting after months of failed talks. TSC is expected to table a motion that will inform the talks for a CBA to run between 2021 and 2026. Secretary General Collins Oyu says they'll negotiate with the Commission on how to ensure teachers' salaries are increased.
Our duty is to advocate for better terms and conditions of service for our members. It is not a sin to engage TSC in fighting for the rights of teachers. It is not a sin to engage to have better terms and conditions of service for our members. Nobody will take you wrong. It is all about negotiating so that we agree on the table.
2 suspects arrested for the kidnap and torture of businesswoman Hafsa Lukman will remain in custody for 14 more days as police complete investigations. Jackson Jogu and Hafsa Ahmed were arrested on Sunday in Kinangop, where they were evading arrest since last week. However, the suspect's lawyer disagreed with the 14-day remand.
It can be done in a day or it can be done in 10 days. There is no specific time for an identification parade. How many people are required in an identification?
That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
Just a few minutes after 7 o'clock, and we are already seeing traffic has built up quite massively on Mombasa Road. Same thing is happening on Thika Road. Coming from Kiambu, joining Muthaiga Square, we see that the northern bypass, be extra cautious between the Ngomongo bumps and the Car West roundabout. So a lot of folks are using the wrong turns today to try and avoid traffic. So please be very, very careful. Kiambu Road is not moving. It's at a complete standstill. If you've not left and you need to go via Kiambu Road, you might want to rethink that, at least for now. Outer Ring already blocked. Kariobangi blocked as well. Utali going slow. Huge traffic everywhere you look at it this morning. Mombasa Road, Langata Road, Ngong Road, Thika Road, Juja Road, Kariobangi, Outer Ring, everywhere today is already packed. This one is going to need some patience as well as wisdom. Talk to us, guys. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127. Let's try and keep things moving as best we can.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
5 minutes after 7. Good morning, and thank you very much for tuning into The Situation Room. C.T. Muga is away this week, so it's Ndu Oko and Eric Latif. Ndu got the second dose of the COVID vaccine yesterday, so she's like that.
What's that?
Huh? All fired up.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm on a loop.
See
on a
now?
loop.
Yeah. Even the mic is running away from you.
Sheesh.
Yes. So again, what are you feeling? Are you still feeling like you're floating underwater?
Yeah, actually I am.
Okay.
This is that thing.
Is there such thing as floating underwater? The fact that you can even say you're floating underwater says a lot about how you're feeling.
It's just like...
Surely.
Hey.
Surely.
Wow, that thing.
Huh?
Telling you,
Mm-hmm.
that thing.
And the first one, you felt nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Nothing.
Not
my
even
arm hurt for some time.
Okay.
Actually, my arm hurt for about a month.
Numbness on your arm.
Yeah. But now,
Mine was just a couple of days, man.
mine was a month. Like I would touch my arm and I would feel that soreness in there. And it finally went away. And then they've jabbed me again.
And now here you are.
And here I am, loopiness.
They've put water over you. Okay. I didn't feel much on the first jab. This second jab, well, the arm, I'm feeling it.
Just embrace the loopy.
Everything else, I'm okay.
Sure you are.
Yeah.
Embrace the loopy, Eric. Embrace
Today's proverb as we begin the hour. Kila chombo kwa wimbile. Kila chombo kwa wimbile. Those that are floating, even those that are floating underwater, every vessel has its own wave. Now you can see why today's proverb is very applicable to the studio.
I get it.
Every vessel
Has its own wave.
has its own wave. Some are floating above water, others are floating underwater. All of them each in their own wave. Kila chombo kwa wimbile.
Yes.
So, IMF.
IMF has said, look, let's just start from the beginning here. IMF has said, you know what? On the public information portal, let the names of those who are these COVID millionaires be made public. Put it in the information portal. There is a place where this information has been made known to certain quarters. But in the spirit of the conditions having been set aside, in the spirit of coming clean when it comes to matters corruption, in the spirit of good, solid governance, let the names be known to the general public. So they've given this ultimatum, and it's midnight tomorrow, the 30th of June, 2022. Let people know that yes, these are the names of those, and according to them, this key planned step should be implemented as a matter of priority. According to them, putting the date of this publication at the end of June, which is tomorrow, publication of the names might unmask some of the shadowy wheeler dealers that have lined their pockets at the expense of a citizenry that has been hit hard by the crippling effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Let Kenyans know who it is that may have done this when they were in a place where they really suffered in terms of reduced incomes, a shut down economy, not being able to travel, not being able to work, all decreased and in some cases disappearing livelihoods. Let them know who was responsible for this. If anything, it gives a little bit of closure to the entire situation. So the government is said to have completed audits of all COVID-19 related expenditures of the financial year 2019-2020, which involved audits of all spending by state corporations and forensic audits of COVID-19 funds utilized by national government entities, KEMSA, and counties. So the government received loans of 200 billion shillings from multilateral institutions, including the IMF and the World Bank. So we now know that Kenya was cash-strapped and then went to the IMF and said, look, we need your help. We need some money to be able to fuel some of our infrastructure development. And also they had gone to the World Bank previously to say, you know what, help us to meet up our budget because we're not able to do that. There's just not enough. We've been hit hard by this thing.
Okay.
The manner in which the IMF operates is conditional lending. It didn't start with Kenya. This was how they did it from the very beginning. We're going to lend you money, but and whether many would see it as a privileged position that they've come from or a patronizing position, these are the rules of the house. When you get into playing a card game, there is an amount that you play on. There are certain conditions of the game, and these are the conditions of IMF. Their lending is conditional. There are certain things that they will bring to the table. They don't necessarily stuff it down your throat, but they say, okay, you want X amount? That's okay. But certain things that we are seeing in your country, for example, you have this information portal, public information portal. You're not really using it, guys. Use it. Tell Kenyans what exactly is going on. Give them a sense of ownership when it comes to public funds and things like that. Let them know what is going on. And these are one of the conditions that we are setting aside so that it can be seen to be that you as a government are being transparent in your dealings, that you are being authentic in your governance and leadership, and that you really actually want the best for the citizenry of the country. It is upon those conditions that we will lend. And I am sure that these conditions were made known when these negotiations were happening on the lending table.
Okay.
Now, the shock and horror with which it has been met, June 30th is tomorrow. If you ask me, they knew about it. These are the rules of the house.
Okay.
And you are playing in the house. Follow the rules.
Okay. So, first, IMF lent Kenya some money, right?
Mm-hmm.
For budgetary support to address the pandemic, right?
Mm-hmm.
The government put aside this money to address the pandemic. A lot of it went into healthcare, purchasing PPEs and all the required, needs to address the pandemic. And also, they put this money into the cash transfer program, the elderly, Inua Jamii, and the others.
Yep.
And to ensure that there is liquidity in the market and people have cash in their pockets. Now, in some of those, like in the procurement, there were issues that have been flagged by the Auditor General, Kenya's Auditor General, not the IMF's.
Mm-hmm.
There were issues that were raised by members of parliament, Kenya's members of parliament. The president himself acknowledged. Even last year, he said, I want to see a report of what's happened in terms of procurement. I want to see some clarity and openness. Our parliament has conducted investigation. There has been an investigation by the Senate. There has been an investigation by the Health Committee of the National Assembly. There's an ongoing investigation by the Public Accounts Committee of the National Assembly. All ongoing. The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission is conducting investigation. I understand, and let's not even mix up issues here. The IMF is not saying publish the names of those who stole. It's basically saying people came and they applied for to supply KEMSA,
and they benefited.
And they were given the contract. Just publish the names. These names are public information. That's what the National Assembly is using to conduct its investigations. Okay. Now, putting them on the portal. The portal was created by our government, where the president himself said, we are creating a portal just so that we can increase transparency in public procurement. Every contract, every person who wins a contract with any government, ministry, state department, or parastatal, it shall be available here. Now, it's been taking a while, because technical challenges here and there, sometimes,
the system can be done.
Yeah, systems. So IMF gave us a loan, and now in the second tranche or something, they said, okay, but you shall publish this, and by at least, June 30th? Yeah. So June 30th. I have an issue with IMF going to the micromanagement side of things. Because it sounds to me like, by putting that deadline, you're basically putting those conditions there. At what point do you allow somebody to exercise their sovereignty? At what point do you allow somebody who is, and validly elected government in office to do its work?
By the time you went to go and ask for this conditional loan,
they exist so that countries can go and ask for loans.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So now those
it's
conditions
not that we were
are
going
there.
to borrow
It's not as though you didn't know that the conditions were there before
IMF
you
is
went.
the investment arm of the World Bank. It's not like IMF, sits and invests on the moon, and then Kenya came out of nowhere and told them, by the way, I understand you're trying to put up dams on Mars and in the moon, but just give me some money, because no, they exist to lend money to countries.
With conditions. So by the time you're going there, you know the conditions. Yeah.
Every lender has their condition, but the condition is...
But their conditions are on governance. It is clear that the conditions are on governance and transparency and things like that.
Yeah.
So now basically they're telling you, this portal that you have is a good thing. Can you understand that your citizenry is actually yearning for you to be open and honest and transparent about these transactions that take place with public funds? This thing that you have is a good thing. So what we are encouraging you to do is to continue to make these transactions transparent. That's all. We are saying this thing that you have please use it. Let it not just be a puppet to show as though you are doing the job, but you're not. You give us reasons, bandwidth is slow, so we're not able to update this system. The public information portal, we had hired a guy last month, but, he's not able to, keep up with it. No, you have this thing. It's a good thing that you have done, and we applaud it. Now, use it. That's what they're saying. And this is what they do wherever they go. You have things that are actually able to push for the transparency of the way in which government is being run and led. Use them. Don't just institute things that you have no intent of using. What are we doing? We're trying to encourage you to be transparent, not just eye service or lip service. Actually do it. And it is upon these conditions that we gave you the money. This is how we operate. You could have gone to anybody, but you came to us knowing our conditions.
Yeah, because you're the only ones with the money that we need. Okay.
Now.
Everybody else has problems and they have need. You don't run a government. You have money to lend to governments and private entities in countries,
yes,
as
but
IMF and the World Bank. You have money to lend to countries.
With my conditions.
Now, your conditions is what I'm raising issue with.
Then don't come.
Because these institutions and those conditionalities are the ones that bring problems, especially to countries such as ours.
Then don't go.
There's no issue about you don't go. The issue of don't go does not really exist. The issue is, should you not be looking at how you address countries? You can't be coming with conditions, especially those ones that come onto issues of, directly at the governance. At now, you are going to freeze salary hikes for all your public workers.
Because
you are going to see how you can consolidate some of the universities that you have and now reduce the number of public universities you have. You're coming to start running my country just because you've given me 200 billion shillings.
Because you've seen
my friend, my budget is 3.6 trillion.
Which you're not able to make it.
You are only
because you have seen that. I see, Eric, that you're struggling. So let's make these suggestions, whether it comes in a patronizing manner or not. I see that you're struggling. So these are the suggestions that we are making to you. Salary increments, we've seen that the bane of this negative transactional existence for Kenya has been that your wage bill is too high. Your wage bill is what eats into your budget most of the time. So is there a way that we can freeze on salary increments in the public sector for some time? Let's try and get back on our feet. Suggestion number one.
It is not let's try.
Let's do that. Those are some of the conditions that we are saying.
Condition is not let's try.
So that guess what? Tomorrow you will not come to me and say, because we spent too much here, so we are going to need to borrow to be able to make up. Managing your spending has also been an issue. The wage bill is the highest expense in this country today. Wage bill. So we're saying, okay, for the next few years, let's not spend as much. Let's try and see how we can balance this money. Because that's at the end of the day, you're trying to cut your coat according to your cloth. Cut your coat according to your cloth, and let's see how we can help you. After all, you came to me to borrow, and the conditions of my borrowing is that I assist you in ways in which you can make this spending make sense on a national level.
Seriously speaking, we agree on some areas, and we disagree on some areas. First, we agree on the fact that our government needs to check its spending.
Yes.
We also agree on the fact that our government needs to be more transparent in how it spends our money.
Yes.
We agree on the issue of public procurement having become the main issue in our government, because corruption is, we have been told before even by experts, it starts from the budgeting stage. It's budgeted corruption, it's executed as corruption. We agree on all those things. We also agree that at some point last year, our government had difficulty, just like very many other governments across the globe, of accessing finance. We, as Kenyans, do not even want to imagine hearing our government going to commercial lenders to address a pandemic. The better thing would have been to go to the multilateral lenders, IMF, World Bank, established by countries for such days, rainy days. We agree so far. We agree that we needed to borrow to address some of these issues. We agree. Senior. We also agree that IMF needed to look at some things in the application process to check some boxes. See, I am a lender, right? Am I going to be able to get my money back if I give you? Do you have the capacity to give me money? So they check and they say, okay, so here, you qualify for this amount of money. Okay? We are in agreement up to that point. My point of departure comes to the way the conditions are set and the implementation of those conditions. And I'm coming from that point of pure and simple sovereignty. You, as an institution, cannot come and start doing the job of government by governing the government. We, the people of Kenya, have not given you that mandate to govern our government. Start telling our government, now, number one, you're going to fire half all your employees. Number two, you're going to collapse all your parastatals. Number three, you are going to...
By the time you went...
If you agreed that with the government, come and ask us first.
Now, do you see where it all comes into play?
Come and ask
when
us.
When Kenyans were doing all of this noise and petitioning that the IMF actually does not do what? It's not... When they were petitioning, when Kenyans were petitioning the IMF, what were they saying? Don't lend at all.
You need to speak to us as Kenyans.
And in fact, it became even louder than that. And it was, don't lend. Don't give Kenya any more money. Don't do it. Because of these, I think it was many folds that came along here. Number one, we can't afford any more in terms of loans. Number two, I think it was very clear that, because this is not the first time the IMF has put forward its conditionalities, not just in Kenya, they do so all over the world. Why do people go and take their money? Because, okay, maybe we can get by with these conditions, but we need the money. Kenyans are saying, and I read some of those, that Kenyans are saying, you know what, the way in which the IMF even treats countries in terms of their sovereignty, we don't like it, number one. So don't even give us your money. By the time you're going to the IMF, you realize that there are certain conditions that they have. Those conditions that they have. So if it looks as though they're micromanaging on your sovereignty, you don't have to go.
No.
Realizing...
And that's where the issue is.
This is the way in which they operate.
This body is not like a group of loan sharks who set themselves up somewhere with some money that they sold pieces of land, they traded, they sold coffee, and then they got money. No. It was established by countries, by governments. 44 countries founded... Who? The IMF, right? And other countries have joined in. Part of that, the feedback that the IMF should be receiving is the way you come with your conditionalities for lending, and especially knowing that people are coming to you at a point of last resort. You actually have pushed countries to come to you at the point of last resort. That you're not the first preferred lender by a government.
Do you really
a government will go to others. A government will look for other, bilateral lenders. A government will go to commercial before a government comes to multilateral. Why? Why are we seeing that, especially in Africa and other third world countries?
Eric.
Why? It's because the IMF wants to be the government.
But do you really think that the IMF is in this business because they really care about what is happening within the leadership and governance of these other countries?
That's what they should be
or
doing.
That they are pursuing their own interests?
Who's their own interest?
These countries that actually rule, or these countries that actually form the leadership and the makeup of the IMF.
And that's what I'm calling out. I am calling out this neocolonialism and the neocolonial tendencies of these organizations. And I am saying they ought to listen to the people. The reason why, for example, our governments are starting to go more and more towards facing east to China to borrow money from there, going to bilateral lenders before they come to IMF and World Bank. Why? Because of the kind of conditionalities. Remember the other day when we were having a conversation and some of our listeners, like Dr. Andrew Sulet, told us, guys, do you remember the structural adjustment program of the 90s and the impact that thing has had on this country for many years later? Why? Because some guys who sat in some office and they're, Harvard Trade University and blah, 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 economists, they sit down and they determine this is how our country should run. You know what? Cut back this,
and
fire
by
people.
The fact that you went to ask for their
fire
money, then
people,
they come and now implement
fire
those
people.
functionalities.
Yeah, we go to ask for money because that's why we established these institutions, so we can go and ask for money.
But you
not so that you don't have to go there. No. The reason why it's there is so that we go to it.
But you must understand
at moments such as these.
It is controlled
and moments
by a
such
certain
as this.
number of countries. It is not it is not. Even, and many would argue, even the international organizations that you have, such as the UN, who sits, for example, at the center, who sits at the core. There's certain countries who control this. And there's a reason why, that they wield the element of control at all times. They have
their reason.
These groups of the G8 and the G7 and the G20, look at the makeup of it.
They have
certain
their
countries
reason.
who are controlling.
You have
it's for
something.
their own interest.
You have something. There's a shopkeeper in your estate, right? Who sells milk, bread, sugar, tea leaves, and all. There's a curfew that has been imposed by the government at 10 p.m. This guy within the estate can open for you in that hour of need. Okay? You have allowed, you as an estate association, you've allowed this business to thrive because you know at some point this will come in handy. Now imagine you're waking up to go to that shop at night to buy Panadol because your child is sick, is running a fever, to buy some paracetamol or painkiller. And it starts telling you, you know what, before I open these doors, you know, I do this and the other. Can you go and sweep your house? Can you switch on your light? You know, I've been noticing that you don't close your curtains well. I need to go, you to go and draw the... Absolutely not.
Right. So if you're not happy with those conditions that they have set because they own the commodity, then what other option do you have? What other option
is to tell this bugger to shape up.
Exactly. Or leave.
Shape up.
Or go somewhere else. Or
no, not go somewhere else. There's a curfew.
No, you don't have to stick
this
with that
is the only
one.
place.
Wake up in the morning and look for option B. If you know that these conditionalities that this one has set, you're not okay with them.
We have African Development Bank, but it's one. IMF, World Bank are the others. We go to them. They have to shape up. Ali in Mombasa, good morning.
Good morning to you. How are you, Eric?
Very well, thank you.
And you, even if it's late, happy birthday to you.
Thank you. How are you? Good morning.
Fine today. And I like that debate today. It's very educative. One thing I'll have to first agree with and do, that we need to reduce the wage bill. Why do we need to reduce the wage bill? We have departments that have been created to be ministries. Look at an example of NITA, National Industrial Training Authority. That used to be a labor department. Why do we have body members here in the labor, there in the NITA? There is the NCSA. That is the work of the traffic. Why do we have NCSA and then we have the Kenya Police Traffic Department? We have the Nairobi Metropolitan Services. We have a governor, and then here we have a director. At the same time, he's a shadow minister who attends every ministry. So you see, every department has its own people. You see how heavy that wage bill is? Now, let's go back to do again. If I go to the bank to borrow money, they give me their conditions. If I don't follow their conditions, meaning I'm not going to get the loan.
The money.
Why? Am I supposed to keep on D on ransom, Eric on ransom, maybe CT, and everybody within that Spice and SpiceFM? You understand the question is, we need to do something. And above all, do. Thank you very much. Transparency in every transaction that this country has got to do. It has to be open. From procuring the loan, from or up to the end of using that loan. We've procured a loan to get an highway where the international community knows that these are going to be international contractors. What happened to them? Bad roads, bad training, bad whatever? They need to know. Or is it that you are talking, Eric, as neo-colonialism?
Yes.
That they want to get back to our country on the back door? And take everything. Take out Port of Mombasa, take whatever you want to take. That is not. We have 9 trillion of projects that are sold. How do somebody like IMF give you money, International Monetary Fund, World Bank, or International Finance Corporation, or African Development Bank, when they really know the project of the money that have been given before has never even started? You talk of those dams in Keror and Amoror. The blankets, are they going to be dams and give us electricity or and save the people in the ethane and whatever you call them to have their chambers irrigated? No, please. I think the first thing first, the wage bill is high. The second is that the transparency has to be there. The third thing is that it has to be the lender to know. He's not asking you to curtain your eyes, to switch off your light. He's asking you to do the better for the country. That's why he came in to help you. If you can't, then sorry, I'm not going to give you the money. Despite us Kenyans saying no to IMF, it agrees on a certain people whom they can rule them all over the time.
Ali.
Morning. I hope you are going to have a great one, and I'm very happy with the situation room.
Asante
all
sana.
the day. Be blessed.
Asante sana. Have a good day. Let's take a break and we continue the conversation. Let's hear from you. 0719-012-600, 0719-012-600. Also on SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. Do you agree with the stringent conditionalities that are usually set by the IMF, the World Bank, and the other multilateral lenders on government, and especially when it comes to issues of governance, and coming up with those strict and direct conditions, which are very, very specific? You are going to reduce your wage bill by doing what? By firing people. You are going to consolidate your parastatals by this and the other. You are going to do this and I'm going to run your government. In other words. And yet, you are a SACCO. I am a member of this SACCO. I contribute to this SACCO. I come to you to borrow. My SACCO can start telling me, now that I want to lend you money, this is all you're going to do. That I'm going to take a SACCO loan for school fees. They start telling me, no, your child should not be in this school. Why is your child in this school and not in the other school? Boss. 28 minutes to 8. Let's hear from you. As we take this break, jobs.standardmedia.co.ke, visit that website today. There are very many jobs that are listed on a daily basis by very many organizations. Those that I've listed today are looking for employees in various cadres with various competencies and skills. If you don't find a job that suits you today, just subscribe and you will receive an SMS or email alert whenever a job that falls within your category is listed. Many jobs are listed on jobs.standardmedia.co.ke on a daily basis. Good morning.
24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo-soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM. 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Malaria husababishwa na viini ambazo husambazwa na kuumwa na mbu kutoka kwa mwathiriwa mmoja aliye na viini hivyo hadi mwingine. Unajua kwamba waweza zuia malaria na hivyo basi kuzuia maafa yanayotokana na maradhi ya malaria? Unaweza kuzuia malaria kwa kuhakikisha kila mtu katika jamii analala ndani ya neti za mbu zilizotibiwa kila siku, kila msimu. Hakikisha mazingira karibu na makao yako ni safi kwa kuondoa maji yaliyokusanyika, vyombo vya plastiki, tairi za gari, katoni na vitu vingine vyote ambavyo havitumiki haswa msimu wa mvua. Vitu hivi hutumika kama makao kuzaana kwa mbu. Wanawake wajawazito katika maeneo hatari ya malaria wanaomba kutembelea kituo cha afya kupokea dawa zilizoidhinishwa za kuwazuia dhidi ya malaria pamoja na mtoto aliye tumboni. Pamoja tuendelee kuangamiza malaria. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na Wizara ya Afya na UNICEF.
Kubash Hood Edition is here, and we are all about the youth. They are young, energetic, ambitious, and they are the future. Kubash Hood Edition is all about creating brighter futures for young people, empowering them from issues mental health, peer pressure, innovation, and even parenting. Our show gives young people the practical and insightful support they need. From different segments from dance battles, shout-outs, Artist of the Week, to even Gava Corner. Kubash Hood Edition. We help them in building their confidence and motivation so they can continue to dream big. Kubash Hood Edition.
All right, so we're still looking at heavy traffic on Thika Road, especially Kiambu Road, coming off, then joining the Muthaiga Square. That's going to continue for some time. We're going to see that, then going towards the Pangani Underpass. public service vehicles are dropping folks who are going to Westlands very far from the stage because of what we are seeing with the blockage of certain parts of the Museum Hill ramp. So that means people are having to walk further. It doesn't look pretty at all. The Northern Bypass Outer Ring, that's already jam-packed. Mombasa Road is a totally different story. We see that construction has continued, and so the traffic has picked up quite some. Everywhere you look around the city today, it just seems that it's taken a lot out of folks to get where they're going early this morning. Hang on, guys. It won't be too much longer, but I know in the moment it looks a little bit crazy. Where are you stuck? Tell us, and maybe we can offer up an alternate route for you. Text on 40127, tweet SpiceFM KE.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
Just recap what your friends at the IMF have told Kenya.
My friends. Now they're my friends.
Yeah, people.
Okay, certain things that the IMF wants Kenya to do right now. Lay bare the owners of companies that were contracted by the Kenya Medical and Supplies Authority as part of an agreement. Was part of an agreement that struck in the ongoing 256 billion shilling program. That was one of the major things that they asked. Also, they're looking at reduction of the wage bill. And by that, you're saying freezing of salary increments, through the SRC, giving them that mandate to do that. But most giving the procedural and transactional obligations of this particular deal, it is that you will make the names of those individuals and or institutions that benefited from the KEMSA scandal. Let it be known who these individuals were. Put it out in this public information portal, which you have anyway, which clearly you've not been using properly. Put them there so that Kenyans can know this money that we didn't have over the last 18 months.
Yep.
This is where it went.
Yep.
Okay.
Now, that portal was started by our government before our IMF told us. Okay. The move to have greater transparency and access to information was on the particular matter of public procurement is one that was started by authorities within government. The president himself came and said, okay, you know what, this is what we're going to do. And we expect and we require that all state departments, all parastatals, any public government entity that does procurement, it does it through this portal by being transparent and listing all the contracts that you have running and all the contractors that you have. This was said by the government. They've started implementing it. They are slow. As a Kenyan, as a taxpayer, I am not happy that the government is slow. And I demand that they put up speed on this. Okay? As a taxpayer, I'd like to know, because the Auditor General conducted an audit and came and told us that, you know, there's some money that was not well budgeted for. A report by Auditor General Nancy Gathungu on the procurement scandal at KEMSA revealed that 2.3 billion shillings was lost in procuring COVID-19 medical supplies. She tabled the report before the Senate in September last year, revealing how billions of shillings were unaccounted for and how there was no evidence of budgetary approval by relevant authorities. This is an institution established by the Constitution called the Auditor General's Office in the Republic of Kenya. Independent. It presented its report to another independent organ of government called Parliament through the Senate. Those organs have started their investigations, including another constitutional commission called the EACC. Okay? We, the people of Kenya, through our institutions, are getting to the bottom of this.
Oh, okay.
Right? Now, you, a circle that we are contributing to, and have come and taken money, don't come and tell us how we're going to run our house. That's basically my point. You can say, okay, it would be good for you to do this and the other. We can agree, but don't start putting them as conditionalities the way the Bretton Woods institutions have done before in this country, in other parts of the world. Because by micromanaging those countries, you come up with your own ideas which are not really tailor-made to what is happening, the realities on the ground of those countries, where the people, the leaders of those countries know what's happening on the ground, know how best to implement these things, know how best to govern their people. And the people themselves know how best they want to be governed. If they are not happy with their government, they'll change it. But don't come and start putting yourself as a government that was not elected by people. The only thing that is giving you that mandate is because you've lent the people of Kenya some couple of billions of shillings.
It was not an imposition.
No.
It was not an imposition. It was not an imposition. It was an agreement. It was an agreement, and by the time they were coming with these conditionalities, they did not force them down your throat. You accept? No. It was an agreement. You accepted. All right. This is what you're bringing to the table. This is what we're asking that you do in order for, because it is an understanding that the big boys who are playing in this sector say that, all right, we have such and such, and we're ready to extend this offering to you. But then we're asking that in order for this to happen, there are certain things that you do. Would you be able to do that? Yes. We would be able to do that. Let's enter into this program. We have no problem. This is not an imposition. It was an agreement. We said, all right, we will be able to do that. Knowing full well.
It was an imposition.
No.
We can call it whatever we want to call it. This is a cow. It looks like a cow. It moves like a cow. You milk it. Its milk tastes like a cow's milk. It's a cow.
You asked for it. They did not come to you and say, here we have money, we're banging down your doors. If you don't take this money, we'll shut Kenya down. No,
and that's the reason they exist.
You agreed to take it.
They exist so that we go to them in such moments of need.
Exactly. With conditions.
They exist so that we go to them in such moments of need.
These conditions were not hatched up when Kenya came knocking on the door.
IMF did not set itself up.
It is not as though Kenya came knocking on the door and they said, oh, by the way, since you're here, let's come up with conditions. No. In their makeup, the very framework of this is that there are conditions that they set aside in order to have it done.
Those conditions cannot be at the one all and do all. Listen, I'm saying again, IMF is a circle. Okay. It exists because 190 member countries,
shareholders,
190 member countries,
and those who make the largest contributions, unfortunately, are the ones who make the decisions. It's the truth. You make the largest contribution, you make the decisions.
Yes. So whoever you are that is making that condition is what we are saying.
We want
as a member, as a junior shareholder in this.
When you come begging for money,
let me tell you,
it is very difficult for you also to set the conditions.
A listed company
is hard.
A publicly listed company, right, has many shareholders. There are big shareholders, those who hold 10%, 20%, 25%. There are institutional shareholders. There are small shareholders, somebody who just bought 100 shares, right? All of them are shareholders.
Yes.
Now, if small shareholders are feeling that the decisions that are being made by the majority shareholder is basically going to hurt the small shareholders ought to speak out.
And they're not speaking out.
And this is what the small shareholder called Eric is doing this morning. I am saying, as part of the 190 member countries of the IMF, you, IMF, ought to stop running my country.
But it is, I keep saying it is an agreement. It is not an imposition.
It is not an agreement.
You
like you
want
said.
Money, because there's something that's changing hands here.
Why are you contradicting yourself? You've just said that there's a big boy somewhere who's running the levers within the IMF.
In terms of how
and
his money
that big boy is the one who's
spent.
going to determine the conditions that you come with.
When you come,
that big boy has come up with a condition, and you're coming to them.
Conditions, and you've come to them and you say you want the money. These are the conditions that have been set.
You have come to them at that point where you have nowhere else to go. You're coming to them because you need this money at this point.
And when you come to them, you know that they have conditions which have already been preset.
And we need to change these things so that the next time I come to you, you don't give me those same conditions, because those conditions hurt me.
Now,
those conditions, just because you've given me 100 shillings out of everybody else who has lent me money, and I owe people 3,000 shillings, yours is 100 bob. You cannot be the one that now comes to run my house.
Then don't come and take the 100 bob.
I'll come to take the 100 bob, because
then you must
one of the reasons why you exist
that have been set so that you can now borrow on that.
That is the point
now,
I'm
what
making.
You don't like is the
I
condition.
want us to change those conditions.
You can't come and say you want money and then at the same time you dictate how now they will lend
I
to you.
can change those conditions because I'm a small shareholder. I am a shareholder. I will call for reform in this organization. There has to be. We cannot just be operating like that. You come up and decide, okay, so now for me to give you money, this, and the other.
Look, if you own the money, you can.
No.
Yes.
We have seen how it hurt this country. We are not operating out of nowhere. We have seen what happened to the structural adjustment programs.
And yet Kenya went back. This is my problem.
Because
beyond this, even Eric.
Why?
Beyond all of
this. At what point did we go back to the IMF after staying away for so long? Why did we stay away for so long? Because we had other options.
Right.
All right.
But also the reason why Kenya had to go back to the IMF in the first place, if you want to look at it critically, was that there has been a gross mismanagement of public funds for the longest time, and that is why Kenya feels that it is so boxed in that the only option for me is to go back to this lending institution that has these strict conditionalities. Can you imagine that you box yourself in so badly, that you have mismanaged funds so terribly, that you have kept a wage bill so high, that the only option for you is to go back to a body that essentially strangled the economy and the operational administration of this country for years? That people are remembering the structural adjustment programs and they're saying, oh my God, that was such a terrible time. There was no movement in terms of the molecules of this economy. Nothing could move. So can you imagine you mismanage it so bad that is the option that you have to go to? So beyond this is to say that really what we should be looking at is not saying IMF has come with conditionalities, but sort out the mismanagement that is happening on a national level every day.
No,
sort it out.
It is actually
so
saying...
that you don't have to go back to this IMF that is causing so much problems. Leave them alone.
It is actually saying both.
Leave them alone.
It is saying both. It is saying that yes, our government ought to manage its finances better. Our government ought to manage its appetite for borrowing better. But at the same time, this IMF ought to reform how it treats governments such as ours. Especially when you're coming at such a point when we're in dire need.
Imagine if countries were able to manage themselves so well that this IMF, with its patronizing and whatever it is that we want to call them, that nobody actually needed to go to them to seek help.
You see, there's nothing like nobody needing to go to the IMF. What's the reason why you've established it there? So that you'll go to it. You will need to go to it at some point. And in fact...
their aim is to keep you in a position whereby you need to continue coming to them.
Yes, every lender, that's their job. Every lender, that's their... In fact, the best thing would be if the conditions were so good and so easily accessible and well laid out that we'd be going to them instead of going for commercial borrowing.
It is not in their interest.
That we go to them.
No, it is not in their interest to keep conditions comfortable and
who is the, you know, this their interest thing.
And I'm talking about the people who run this thing. You think that because you're a shareholder, you're actually the one calling the shots. You're not.
We have to get to a point where we call the shots. We have to make noise long enough. The people have to rise up to some point. At some point, people have to say, listen, we have got to reform this institution.
The people who now became what they call middle income, then second world countries, the Brazils and Indias of today, did they seek approval, or did they just work on their internal administration and work on things in terms of the development index and sort it out? Were they looking for people to come and give them a pat on the back? No. And then suddenly people find that they're actually jostling and looking for a position at the table. Do the due diligence and make sure that somebody is bound to sit up and take notice.
You know, just because a country is in the BRICS doesn't mean that it doesn't go to the IMF.
And exactly.
And it does not mean that it is happy. It does not mean that it is happy.
But it is not held ransom by some of these things that we are seeing today.
They are. By the time Greece was getting to those point where Greece wasn't a poor country.
No, it wasn't, but it had mismanaged itself to the point where it could not even stand on its feet and had to go through a restructural program, because had they not gotten that help, where would they be today?
And that is the reason why we have such institutions in existence in the world.
Now look at Greece
for
today.
For such moments.
Still dealing with those.
Now what we are saying is, at such a moment in this country, we ought not to be given such strict conditions on how to run. Yes, let's agree. I need to come up with a reform program. I need to do this and the other. I need to be to manage myself better with the people, but I'm answerable to the people. Borrowing money from you does not change that. That now I'm answerable A, to you, B, to the people. No.
And in
the way things look like right now, it's like you're answerable A to IMF, B to the people.
And how answerable have you been to your people?
Let the people decide.
The same people are the ones who are shouting and telling IMF, don't give us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Don't give us.
Exactly.
Because you also know that those conditionalities have already been set up. Let the
people make that determination by changing their government. They change their government, they hold elections, they change their government. Let people make their own determination. There's something called self-rule. Self-rule means you make your own decisions.
Now, that is
good
what I am
decision,
saying. With
bad
this
decision, learn with it.
Exactly. Now,
you
with this
cannot
bad
come
decision,
and say that
you
there is
cannot go and
self-rule,
say
but
you're
I'll
asking
put
for
a
help,
condition to the self-rule.
And then the person who is giving you help, you actually say, you know what, now, this is how you will give me this help. And
Yes.
you're the one who is asking for the help.
Yes.
No.
That I established you so that I can come.
No.
I established you so that I can be coming to you, and this is how I shall be
But you
accessing
didn't
money.
establish me. It was established and then you joined.
Yes, but I'm a member of it. It was established by some 44 guys.
And this is the
And
way
then
they
those
said that they're
44
going to
guys,
operate. And then you said, actually,
when
you
they
know
were
what, we can
inviting us,
expand this thing and then you can then join us.
Now we are in there.
Now
we
the club has its rules.
We are going to change the rules from within.
The club has its rules.
No.
You can't wear shorts to the dinner table. These are the rules.
This is
Because
how
the
people are
who
subjugated
set it up-
because you say, oh, you know what, you're in my house. Absolutely not.
Yes, you're in my house. So what I'm saying is, you want to be able to run things in which you want. Either you become part of the woodwork that forms this thing in terms of now either your contribution or these things that they're saying need to actually happen. You do that. Or guess what? You build your own house. Do you see China falling to the whims of these people?
China is part of the IMF.
But do you see them falling to the whims of
It is part of the IMF.
Do you see them falling to those whims?
The IMF cannot dare tell them that. Why? Because they know the strength of the people of China.
Exactly.
They
Because
ought
they've
to know
done
the
what?
strength of the people of Kenya.
But it's
The
not
people
happening
of
right
Kenya-
now. And
the
I'm saying
people of
it
Kenya-
lies heavily on governance. It lies heavily on Kenya's internal governance today.
And we, the people, shall determine how our governance shall be.
When?
We, the people, at our own time.
Okay.
Whether it takes 100 years
So now
or
in that
5
100
or
years,
10,
you still need some help over
we,
here.
the people,
Right.
we
So as
shall
we,
not
the
be
people, are
told. We
getting
shall
to the
not be
point
told
whereby
how
you
we
need
shall
help.
run ourselves.
You
and our
need help
affairs.
in this time period. The person who is offering you this help says, this is the way in which I will offer you the help. These are the rules that I have been able to set. And you have agreed. You have agreed. You see, that's the problem. Now you're saying, as we the people, the governor or the government, right, that you're under, has actually gone and made this agreement on your behalf. They've agreed. They've
Yes.
agreed. And I hear you because it's flying in the face of sovereignty. I agree with you 100%.
The pain here is on two fronts.
Mm.
One, because I understand that my government did not have many other options by the time it was going to them. Okay?
Because it had run things roughshod.
Yes, because it didn't have very many options. It needed money, and other sources of money were not going to be able to come in handy at this point. So this one that we've been keeping on the side comes in handy. All right? The other problem that I have is the fact that this lender comes in and decides this is how I want you to run your affairs. And that's why I'm having a bigger problem with. My bigger problem is on this lender determining how my affairs shall be run henceforth. I live in your house, you built it, but I contribute to rent. Okay? And I do shopping. No, wait, not rent. I contribute to shopping for everything, for what is consumed in the house. You can't start telling me, it's my house, you're not going to buy chapati flour.
Or you buy this kind of chapati.
You buy this kind of chapati flour. If you don't want it, go build your own house. Come on.
But those are the rules now. As per you entered the door, and you said this is what you
and
want.
we've got to change those. That's why I'm saying we've got to change those
So you
rules.
want the rules to be changed,
We've got to
but at
say-
the same time,
We've got to have some level of respect. And that's the level of respect I'm demanding. I agree that our government ought to publish the names of all people who supplied to KEMSA. All the companies that supplied to KEMSA. That should be easily accessible information on a portal. And the government making the move of creating this portal was a good move. And it should basically just implement this. Publish those names of the contractors in all government projects. Publish. Implement reports that have been tabled by the Auditor General. Conduct investigations as Parliament. We have an arm of government called Parliament. Conduct your investigations and make sure that you come up with concrete recommendations going forward. Those recommendations should be implemented by the executive and all the relevant executive arms. We have those structures in place. Now, somebody else coming to say that, you know what, in fact, even your budget the way it is, I need you to change it. Our budget that was passed by our own elected leaders. A budget that is, however bad it is
your own.
our people
Okay.
who passed it. If we have a problem with them, we'll go to them. I have a problem with an outsider basically coming to run my kitchen.
An outsider should not come and tell you how bad things are. You should be able to then
I know
realize
how bad things are.
You should be able to realize on your own how bad things are, and
Yes,
actually
and
then
that's
make
where the problem
steps
is.
towards
When
fixing
outsiders start
them.
behaving as if they have the brain and I don't have a brain. I know what is ailing me. I can see
But then
it.
you're just sitting with the ailment instead of doing something about
Let
it.
me deal with it in my own way.
Okay.
Don't come and be the one that now starts telling me this is exactly how you're going to do
But
it.
then
Why?
you reserve the right to come and...
Because I've bought you medicine, so I'm going to determine what time you're going to take the medicine and the size of cup that you're going to put water in so that you can swallow your medicine. Come on. No. There's got to be a line and a balance.
I think there's a line and a balance when you actually find that you have a little bit more muscle at the table. And what provides that muscle is when you've been able to run your affairs in a certain manner. Because it would appear that by the time you're coming and making these demands or entering into such an agreement, that everything has almost fallen apart.
But do you see?
That
Do you
has-
see one of the reasons why I don't get there? Is because you know very well that at some point in my journey to get there, I will need you. And when I need you, you come and take away my shoes and tell me walk backwards.
Because by the time you're coming to me,
The
things are not
progress that I have
good.
made, I come to you, you basically claw back on all that progress.
Look, I'm not
just
saying-
because I've come to you.
I actually
Because
do-
you come in and you impose these conditionalities, and those conditionalities, instead of progressing me, they're holding me back.
I do take
Or they're
issue,
retrogressing me.
Right. I do take issue with the way in which the IMF and some other institutions operate. But this is what I'm saying. By the time you're getting to them, there's an understanding about their modus operandi. There is an understanding about the conditions that they set forth. So by the time you're going and making these demands and entering into such an agreement, there should be a wholesome realization and acknowledgement of the fact that these are some of the conditions that they're going to put forth. If you are comfortable with them, then you don't reserve the right to complain.
I am okay with all that if it was a Eurobond. All right? That's a market. Market, it's established itself, it's running itself. So if the market decides that this is how I'm going to lend you money, fine. I am not okay with an institution to which I'm a member that relies on my membership, among others. Okay? That's where I have an issue with. And there I can say that no, I need to have better power of negotiation. I cannot come to you and you tell me, this is how you enter this house. I'm saying let's have a conversation about how I shall enter this house. Going forward, you shall not always demand that I remove my shoes when I'm entering your house. Even when you know that your house is not clean. I have come in, we shall discuss how I will enter the house at the point of entering the house. But it shall be very clear that there is no condition precedent. This is how you shall approach me. Come on, man. And that's a point of sovereignty.
But sovereignty also means...
When people are
that
tired
you
of their
actually-
governments, they take action. Look at what's happening in Eswatini. In Eswatini, people are tired. They're demanding democracy. They're demanding more voices from the people.
So Kenyans are not tired
And so they've
yet.
been out there, they've been demonstrating, and they're saying the king, listen to us. King is not listening. King has fled the country.
King out.
King out.
Perhaps
Fled the
that's
country.
what
We don't know
ought to
what's going to
happen.
happen. But you see, people have a brain. Always live with that realization that people have a brain. In this country, the sovereign will of the people is supreme to everything else. Even our own government. We shall change our government when we want to change our government.
Okay. We'll wait for that time.
Not for you to come and tell us choices of consequences as if you want to determine how we shall run our own affairs. Absolutely
I keep
not.
saying you still went and asked for the money.
Yes. Yes, and we shall go back to ask for more money, but we shall demand how to be treated better when you go to ask for our money.
Yeah.
The conversation continues in the next hour. Good morning. It's 8 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning, this is the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga. Chief Justice Martha Koome has appointed a 3-judge bench to handle the case of the 6 judges left out by President Uhuru Kenyatta in his recent appointments. The 3 judges, James Wakiaga, William Musyoka and George Dulu, will jointly hear 2 cases challenging the president's action. The petitioners, who are the Katiba Institute and Nakuru physician Magare Benjamin, want the president to appoint the 6 judges, saying failure to appoint them shows that he undermines the Judicial Service Commission. JSC had sent a list of 41 to Uhuru. Unfortunately, 1 passed away. The president recently appointed 34 judges, leaving out the 6 over alleged integrity issues.
As long as I serve as president, I will choose the right over the convenient. I will choose the hard over the easy. And I am not doing this for myself, but for the people of Kenya and for posterity. All of those that are honored with a service to the nation, in the judiciary, the executive, or the legislature, that we have a collective duty to deliver the hopes and dreams of Kenya.
Police in Makueni County have launched investigations to determine the cause of fire that razed down a dormitory at Mboni Boys School this morning. Area Police Commander Joseph Napeyan says one of the school's security guards discovered the fire just minutes after students went to class for morning preps. No student was, however, injured in the incident. The Teachers Service Commission has rolled out a plan for recruitment and promotion of over 10,000 teachers. The commission will hire 5,000 secondary school teachers and another 1,000 for primary schools. CEO Nancy Macharia says the additional teachers will support the government policy on 100% transition of learners from primary to secondary schools. All new teachers hired will serve on permanent and pensionable terms of service. President Uhuru Kenyatta plans to tour Deputy President William Ruto's Rift Valley home turf to launch development projects. The region has been described as an enemy territory by Uhuru's backers after he fell out with his deputy. The tour will be next month as Uhuru races to cement his legacy. During the tour, Uhuru will issue title deeds to thousands of residents and launch several road projects. And finally, the Ethiopian government has declared a ceasefire in the Tigray region 8 months after Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed sent troops to oust its leadership. The announcement came as witnesses reported anti-government troops in the streets of Tigray's capital, Mekelle. All sides have been accused of carrying out mass killings and human rights violations. More than 5 million people are in urgent need of food aid, the UN says, with 350,000 facing famine. That's the News Wire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
All right, so still some heavy traffic on Mombasa Road. That's what we're looking at today. It looks like it'll be that way on Mombasa Road. We're looking at some of it also still coming off out of Westlands. It's going to be heavy. Muthaiga Road is the way to get out of this today, and then out towards Thika Road if that's the direction in which you're going into the Uhuru Highway from Nyeri Stadium roundabout through to Westlands. In and outbound, Mombasa Road is also jam-packed. Jogo Road getting into the city, that's the roundabout of City Stadium, then to Landis going towards industrial area. Outer Ring, I mean, we can keep listing, but everywhere traffic is really, really building up. We have to keep an eye out for this today. Let us know, guys. A place where you find a good route, please share. Everybody's looking for a little bit of reprieve this morning. SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only
It's 5 minutes after 8. Kenya's biggest conversation gets into the third hour. Thank you very much for tuning in wherever you are on SpiceFM, online, SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, or those who are joining us on KTN Home. A very good morning to you. In the room this morning is Nduoko and Eric Latif. CT Muga has taken a break. Today's proverb is a Swahili one. Kila chombo kwa wimbile. Kila chombo kwa wimbile. Every vessel has its own wave. Yeah, no need to compare one with the other. Every vessel has its own wave. in its own space at any particular given time.
Yeah.
Kila chombo kwa wimbile. So today, all cameras will be focused on the Court of Appeal. When the judges of the Court of Appeal, this particular bench that was constituted by the President of the Court of Appeal, Daniel Musinga, sits to listen to the appeal on the ruling against the BBI that was done by the High Court. The 7 judges are Daniel Musinga, the President, Kaido Gatembu, Fatuma Sichale, Roslyn Nambuye, Francis Tuyot, Hannah Okwengu, Patrick Kiage. And those that will be in court are the President, Uhuru Kenyatta himself, former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, the National BBI Secretariat, the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, and the Attorney General. And against the BBI will be the Kenya Human Rights Commission, the persons David Ndii and the others who had taken the case to court. We have Elias Mutuma for Third Way Alliance. We have lawyers also who are representing other organizations as well. So this is now where everybody will be looking at and wondering, so what happens next? If the Court of Appeal agrees with the High Court, then the BBI is given another blow and maybe they seek to go to the Supreme Court. If the BBI is given a go-ahead by the Court of Appeal, then maybe those who are defending this at the Court of Appeal will go to the Supreme Court. So what happens? And then what happens to the fate of the basically BBI is, as we have this whole, legal conversation surrounding the legality of the BBI, the process, the technicalities of it. Do the people want BBI or do the people not want BBI? At some point, is it a decision that should be made by the people? And can we guarantee that the will of the people will actually be accorded its space if a referendum ought to be held today? In other words, can we really have a free and fair and competent and independent referendum being conducted in such a case where you can clearly see how much stake has been put by those who wield power? Many questions emerge there.
Absolutely. I mean, even as you're looking at, just as you're saying that, even as you go to court battles and such, the next 4 days, everybody's going to be held to grips and to try and understand the entire legal process in terms of what should happen. I am then asking myself, where is the will of the people in all of this? That did it actually come out clearly? Because it will seem as if sides have been taken, but one of the most important sides has actually not been taken into consideration at all. That nobody is asking, what do Kenyans want? Because this is what we are seeing here at the end of the day. When push comes to shove, is this what Kenyans want? Or are Kenyans at the point where they're actually going to reject this? It doesn't seem that comes into play. It seems that at the very last minute, when these decisions are made in court, then it will be thrown to Kenyans to chew it up for whatever is left of it and say, all right, we accept or we reject this. But right now, the will of the people not being considered, if you ask me. There are two sides that are fighting against each other. It would appear as though the side that has brought in this against that of the BBI initiative is fighting on behalf of the people. But I am left to wonder whether that really is the case. And when does the voice of the people ever get heard in things like this that would essentially change the way in which lives will be run in this country, and then you don't go to those people to ask for their approval?
The National BBI Secretariat will argue that it actually represents the voice of the people.
They will argue
that they got a good cross-section of Kenyans to support this by appending their signatures. Remember, they presented over 4 million signatures to the IEBC. They'll argue that this is the will of the people, and the will of the people shall be exercised even at the referendum. And so let's go to the referendum. where the people shall individually and independently make a determination on this and exercise their will, express their voice on this particular move.
So having this shut down, essentially what they're saying is that you then deny the voice of the will of the people to be heard on this matter.
Yes.
So from that point of view, what the BBI committee would actually say is that if you don't allow this process to go through, you're not allowing Kenyans to actually say what it is that they want. I think it can be argued on very many sides. Because really, did the voice of the people come out when this was being put together in the first place?
Let's bring in constitutional expert. Our friend Waiko Onyoike joins us this morning again. Good morning, Waiko.
Good morning.
It's good to have you on the show. Welcome to the Situation Room this lovely Tuesday morning.
Thank you for having me, Eric and Waiko.
Good morning.
So the hearing at the Court of Appeal begins today. Various people have various issues that they're raising, and there were 17 issues on ground for appeal. Just from the very onset, we discussed this when the High Court judges made their ruling and their determination. What should we expect in the next couple of days in terms of arguments 2 and 4, for and against?
We expect a lot of fights, especially from the government side and the BBI, the promoters of BBI, who, by the way, are one and the same thing. As you know, there are quite a number of issues, as you've said, but there are some issues that are probably considered more important than others. Just to highlight a few, there is the question about popular initiative. What is a popular initiative, and who has the right to initiate a popular initiative? That question is important for 2 reasons, at least. One, because if the Court of Appeal agrees with the High Court, then the entire process is found to have been unconstitutional from the beginning. But the second reason why it is important is because it's for the purpose of initiating a popular initiative, which the judges found to have been done against the law, that Uhuru Kenyatta was also found to have violated Chapter 6. And so that is an important issue, especially also for the president, to be able to get to the point where he might be able to reverse that finding, if at all. The second issue that I think will be very, very contentious is the issue about basic structure doctrine. The appellants, and this is the BBI and the Attorney General, are saying that this is a foreign creature that was initiated by the judges, all invented by the judges, that the Kenyan Constitution doesn't have a basic structure, and so it was wrong for the courts to confirm that. And in fact, what some of them have argued is this is what is called judicialization of politics, basically judges taking over politics. So we expect a significant fight about that. And why that issue is also important is because first, it's so critical in terms of the future amendment of the Constitution, because then whenever one proposes to change the Constitution, whether it's Parliament or through popular initiative, there is always going to be that question, is what you're changing a basic structure? And so is the process required a different one? But it's also important because if it's found that there is, or again confirmed that there is basic structure, then the question goes specific to BBI. What provisions did you choose to change that affect the basic structure? So it gets, again, quite messy. The third issue is what we call what is an amendment. By the way, there is this belief that the only appeals that have been filed are appeals that have been filed by those who are supporting BBI. In fact, even those who substantially won have also filed what we call grounds of affirmation or counter appeal. And so one of the issues that is critical is what is an amendment. So is it right, if you're amending the Constitution, to pack so many issues in an amendment bill? Or is an amendment required to be only one singular issue? Remember, Eric, why this issue is important is that if you allow more than one singular issue, and by a singular issue I mean issues that are related, as opposed to having multiple different issues that speak to different things, like the BBI bill is, then if you allow more than a singular issue, what we call an omnibus bill, then the question becomes, how can you stop somebody who is proposing to amend the Constitution from using an amendment power to actually replace the Constitution, or, as some of the respondents are arguing, to dismember the Constitution, so that tomorrow you can just come up with an amendment, an initiative that says Amendment of Kenya 2021, Constitution of Kenya 2021 bill. The Constitution of Kenya is amended by replacing the following. And you list from provision 1 to the last provision, which is provision 260. And then you bring your own and say this is an amendment. Because to some extent, that is what BBI tried to do, and maybe went, maybe not halfway, but at least quarter way there. Then there's two probably other issues that are that will be very, very contentious. There are issues relating to IBC, issues about quorum, but that may not be as important because now IBC recruitment is happening. But issues to do with signatures. What is a signature and how do you verify that? And whether IBC actually had conducted voter registration and whether it was in default, that will be important. Then finally, obviously, the issue about whether the president can be sued. So those are some of the issues I expect to be very, very contentious. Those issues obviously lead to other questions. And one of those very important questions is, if you allow an omnibus bill, then should you be having a multiple should you be having multiple questions at a referendum, or a multiple question referendum?
Right. Waikwa, this is a unique, presenting another unique situation whereby executive is directly involved then again in judicial matters. Do you think that there is heavy pressure on the judiciary right now to adjudicate in this matter along the lines or along the preferred lines of the executive?
Certainly, and you can see it at two levels. The first, obviously, we saw what the president said during the Jamhuri Day celebration. It was a lot of us believe that that was a message that was specifically calibrated for judges to tell them that you cannot nullify a process that I've started myself, because the president claims to speak for the people. So that is one. And maybe added to that, the appointment of judges, where the president obviously failed to appoint 6 judges, 2 of whom were in the BBI. And people have forgotten that there were, out of the 5 judges, only 2 of them had been selected for the Court of Appeal, not because the others were not selected, applied and were not selected. It's because they hadn't applied to go to the Court of Appeal. But Justice Joel Ngugi and Justice Odunga applied, and they were interviewed, and they were selected. And the president coming and making that partial appointment so soon after BBI judgment and leaving those two judges, it's hard not to read that was animus from the president because the two judges ruled against him. And I hope Kenyans don't forget that. But the second main reason is the lawyers that the government and the BBI team has chosen. As you will notice, starting with Attorney General. So we have a whole state department that has many lawyers, hundreds of lawyers. At the High Court, the Attorney General was represented by lawyers who are staff members at the office of the Attorney General. The Attorney General has now chosen to go to private bar and hire, obviously, very senior and very experienced lawyer. Of course, there are questions there. What message is the Attorney General sending to the people? Is it that he's saying his lawyers at Sharia House are not good enough, they are not competent enough, they are not good fighters? That's a question for another day. But the fact that he chose to go to private lawyers who are big names, that tells you they are not leaving anything to chance. And that happened also with IBC. I understand, for example, the former Attorney General, who is still a public officer, by the way, because he's a member of one of the corporations, has joined the IBC team. And we know the list goes on in terms of heavyweight. Interestingly enough, when you compare and contrast, it's almost that fight between David and Goliath when you look at the profile of lawyers on the two sides.
Yeah, let's look at those lawyers actually again, because like you say, very senior lawyers and heavyweights on the one side, those that are appealing these decisions of the High Court. For the president, we have senior counsel Waweru Gatonye, Mohamed Nyaoga, Desterio Yatsi, Tom Masharia. Then for the BBI Secretariat, you have Senior Counsel James Orengo, you have Otiende Amolo, Paul Mwangi, Ben Sihanya, Jackson Awele, Arnold Oginga. You have for IEBC, Professor Gedho Muigai, Eric Gumo. For the Attorney General, we have the Solicitor General himself, Kennedy Ogeto. And then you have George Oraro, Paul Nyamodi, and Kamau Karori. These are big names that they've put together. They've said, we are going all out. So there's a lot of investment on a positive decision coming out of this. If you look at it now from the political side of things, when you see the president, the former prime minister, the machinery in the state has actually put together such a heavy team, if a decision were to go against them, politically speaking, and this is looking at the reality of what we have seen in this country for many years, what is the likely political response to a negative outcome out of this particular case?
First, before we go to the political reaction, just a few things about the lawyers. Kenyans should not be too worried that the state side and the BBI side has big names. We should also list the lawyers on the other side. But I'm sure a lot of Kenyans won't recognize those names other than maybe the name of
John Hamiswa,
John Haminwa, and to some extent our president, Nelson Havi.
Yep.
Once you start going down the list below that you don't recognize, Kenyans won't necessarily recognize this name. They are not household names. But Kenyans need to know. I've worked with all these lawyers. I've had the chance to litigate with them and against them. Both the big names and for lack of a better word, the small names. These unknowns are brilliant constitutional lawyers. Remember, this case is about, when you take politics out of it, it's actually about very technical constitutional issues, what we call groundbreaking type of constitutional issues. If there is brilliance in the room, and if Kenyans are watching for brilliance, not drama, they should be watching the respondent's lawyer. That is where the good arguments or the very deep arguments will come from. These are people who spend a lot of time thinking about constitutions, not about just Kenyan constitution, but comparative constitution. A lot of them teach law, and so they are extremely brilliant. And when you're dealing with an issue that is being litigated the first time, you want somebody who reads their law, who reads other people's law, who understands how these things have developed, not somebody who brings the weight of their name to the courtroom. Yes, they may be seen when you watch the courtroom, you may see those senior counsel get a bit more room, a bit more deference from the judges, because that's natural. But when you listen to the argument, then you'll know who has the stronger and more sophisticated argument. So I wouldn't worry about that. And having said that, actually, it's quite ironical. Again, I say that I've worked with lawyers on both sides. On basic structure specifically, the BBI case is not the first case that determined that the Kenyan 2010 constitution has a basic structure. The first case actually was decided in 2012 by Justice Lenaola. And that was a case when members of parliament were trying to take themselves out of the definition of a state officer because they wanted to make sure that their salaries and emoluments are not regulated by Salaries and Remuneration Commission. The two lawyers who argued that the Kenyan constitution has a basic structure, and Justice Lenaola agreed with them, even without necessarily elaborating to the length that we saw in the BBI, were senior counsel George Oraro and Mr. Paul Nyamondi. I was lucky to argue alongside the two of them for Katiba Institute that the Constitution has a basic structure. So you can see, even some of these contradictions will come out. But thinking about the implication,
let's take a break, Kwaiko, if you don't mind. Let's take a break and then we'll talk about the implication of this and also the political ramifications and the political response out of this break. 28 minutes after 8, we are talking about the case that's about to begin at the Court of Appeal today. The 7 judges of the Court of Appeal will be hearing arguments for or against the appeal on the BBI ruling that was done by the High Court. Waikwa Wanyoike, constitutional lawyer, is helping us go through this. In the room with you this morning is Nduokoa and Eric Latif. Let's take a break on KTN Home, on SpiceFM, and online. We'll be back shortly. As we take the break, the health experts and the meteorological experts are warning you that, well, it's going to be a season for increased flu because it's going to be raining, it's going to be cold. And at the same time, as you think about the flu, also think about malaria. And make sure that you don't have any clogged water spaces or water bodies around you so that you don't give mosquitoes room to breed. We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
As the Kenyans are roared into the home straight here. 4 Kenyan queens have lit up this balmy Bahamian night.
It's where the rivalry is unmatched, where the soul meets the track, where the great are distinguished from the good. An arena where the records are broken.
A new world record. It's not just been beaten, it's been obliterated.
A stage where the legends are born. For Team Kenya, the Olympics is more than just a sport. It is our tradition. It's an event that has put Kenya on the roadmap. The Standard Group lets you watch every minute and every action live in the 2020 Tokyo Olympics because we live for Team Kenya. We live for the game. At Standard Group, sports lives here.
24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
We've been all through it, you know. We go to school, study hard, get the much-deserved grades and celebrate our graduation. Then reality hits us. We get to the job market and we simply don't know where to start off. Thankfully, by visiting jobs.standardmedia.co.ke, your next career breakthrough could be a click away. Get the best in career advice, employment opportunities, internships, part-time jobs, CV writing and interview coaching. Give your career the much-needed lift on jobs.standardmedia.co.ke.
It's mostly cloudy in Nairobi at 15, highs of 22 and lows of 14. It's raining slightly in Nyeri at 15, highs of 20 and lows of 13 today. 14 will be the low in a sunny Nakuru at 15. It'll go to highs of 24. 23 will be the high in Eldoret. It's sunny at 12. It's 20 degrees and sunny in Kisumu, highs of 27, lows of 18 today. It's also 20 degrees in Kakamega, highs of 26 and lows of 14. 28 will be the high in Mombasa, where it's raining this morning at 23. It's also raining in Malindi at 25. It'll go to highs of 27 today. 25 will be the high in a mostly cloudy Kampala at 23. Mostly cloudy conditions in Dar es Salaam at 25. Highs of 30 and lows of 22. 22 will be the high in Johannesburg. It's 13 and sunny, coming down to lows of 10. Light rain in Lagos at 24 with highs of 30. Highs of 27 in Kinshasa. It's mostly sunny at 20.
Spice FM.
It's getting hot in here.
Oh, everybody steals. It's better a thief who brings something small back. And I say to myself, there's no better thief. A thief is a thief, period.
All those bribes, how much they're getting per year, how much inconvenience they're causing, as much as you call it a small case, it's worth it to be convicted.
The truth is, we are a tribal nation. Because if we were not tribal, and I want to go back to this, you cannot continue walking around with a mug which is clean outside and it's rotten inside.
We have become a fuliza country. We have mortgaged our country because of debt.
You've got one chef working and the assistant chef wakati anatakana koroge unga nini hayuko.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Okay, Kiambu Road is not looking good at all, guys. All 4 lanes. There's some traffic at around the DCI, but it's moving, relatively so, getting then towards the Muthaiga Square. But Kiambu Road today is looking quite the jam-packed situation. Githurai outbound, there's huge traffic going towards Thika. Something's going on right around that corner, so we need to watch out for that as you're headed in that direction. Kingara Road today is packed as well, trying to either go towards James Gishuru or out then towards Gong Road. There's been an accident at the Kawa Barracks flyover. And so that is slowing things down considerably as well. Bypass has its own issues today. That's the eastern one specifically. The southern bypass looking pretty good. Those who are using the ICD route to connect with the bypass headed out towards Langata Road, not having too much of a difficult period right now. It looks pretty good. Coming off of Jogo Road into the city, that's a totally different story. Industrial area is jam-packed. Coming out with the Likoni interchange on Mombasa Road today, also quite packed. So right in the middle of traffic hour. It's going to be a while before we get out of this one. But keep your wits about. We'll see what it looks like in a bit. SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
9. This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room. In the Situation Room this morning is Eric Latif and Ndu Oko. Our colleague CT Muga has taken some time off to relax and rejuvenate. Speaking with us on the line is Waikwa Wanyoike, constitutional lawyer and expert on these matters. The headline in the Standard this morning: all eyes on the 7 appellate judges who will determine the mother of all court battles. It's basically been billed as the big one. This is it. This one determines the shape of the country coming into the next general election and beyond. And when we were talking about all the things that we were discussing earlier, Waikwa, you said, for example, on the matter of, whether the Constitution has a basic structure, some of these lawyers who are today representing the Attorney General were on the one side arguing at some point, and you said they argued, and you were part of that, on the issue that there is actually basic structure to this constitution. Now, the question, I want to ask a question that I've seen that has been asked on social media. Somebody's asking, so of all these lawyers, of all these interested parties, and let me just repeat, there's lawyers representing the president, lawyers representing the former prime minister and the National BBI Secretariat, for IEBC, for the Attorney General, and those on the other side of the divide, lawyers representing the Kenya Human Rights Commission, David Ndii and the others who also had taken their court. Among them is our friend Wanjiru Gekonyo and Cherotich Sei, Elias Motuma for Third Way Alliance. Then there are lawyers Dudley Ochiel, Morara Omoke, Michael Karanja, Mudomi Thiankolu, and you've said also Senior Counsel Martha Karua, and others. Who represents the voice of the people? Or are the people, is there any entity called the people here that's going to be represented in this case?
The people sometimes is a political construct, or a construct of politicians, actually, to put it much more precisely. And so it's always contested. For me, I would want to ask, are there lawyers for the Constitution and lawyers arguing to frustrate the Constitution? And if I was to answer my own question, I would say yes. The people who are trying to uphold the Constitution, using what the Constitution states in Article 1 in terms of sovereignty of the people, Article 2, supremacy of the Constitution, Article 3, defense of the Constitution, and finally, Article 259 on how the Constitution should be interpreted and its purpose. Those are the people who are acting for the Constitution. By the way, there are two lawyers that I think it's important to highlight who are representing the respondent. The first one is lawyer Caroline Kituko. She's the main and only lawyer for the Muslim for human rights. Remember, Muslims for Human Rights have brought a very critical issue, which is the question about the legal framework, whether there is sufficient legal framework to guide the constitution amendment. The second one is a lawyer called Muthoni Nyiguto. She's the lawyer who is representing the law professors who joined the case at the High Court as amicus. Why do I highlight that? Because if you look at big public law cases in Kenya, they are cases about testosterone. And there is a way that the legal profession is guilty about minimizing the role of women lawyers. And I think it's important to celebrate these lawyers. If you look at the other side, I have hardly seen any woman, leave alone a woman who is unknown in the legal profession, not very well known in the legal profession. And I think it's important that even when we litigate these cases, we also are able to see the values that we are trying to imbue through the cases. But thinking about your question about the implications, Latif, where we sort of posed the conversation. I think there are two levels of implications. There is the political implications and there is the legal implications. Let's start with the legal implications. The legal implications are a bit complicated. There is a very good possibility that the Court of Appeal will agree with certain issues that the High Court ruled about and disagree with certain issues. There is also a third possibility that a lot of the people are not discussing, which is that the Court of Appeal could actually enhance some of the findings of the High Court. To give you an example, the High Court said what is required at a referendum is to pose multiple questions. If BBI bill was to get to a referendum, then you have to pose multiple questions and not a single question. The Court of Appeal could come out and say, actually, one of the problems of BBI was that you packed too many issues in the bill. And so it was wrong from the beginning to do that. And if you wanted to amend the Constitution, or if you want to amend the Constitution in the future, you have to only take one issue. That would be what we call an enhancement of the finding of the High Court. But let's assume that some of the different losses for those who won at the High Court. There is obviously the first question: is it possible that the judges can reverse all the finding? Of course, legally or conceptually, it's possible, but is it likely? I really doubt that it's likely that the judges will reverse all the findings. Why is that important? Because if you look at BBI, because it's been presented as a package, if they lose on one of the issues, let's say they win the 14 or 15 issues out of the 17, but they lose 2 or 3. And let's assume, for example, they lose on the issue of the 70 constituencies. It almost certainly means they can't take the BBI bill to referendum, because the BBI bill is inseparable. The different provisions are inseparable. It's one bill. So the question, and this is the legal implication for me, in terms of the first question, is winning in the Court of Appeal allows for a referendum, because that's what the winners want.
So why essentially you're saying that in terms of determining this case, that if it's either you deliver for the BBI in its entirety, and you're not, because if you cherry pick amongst the issues, you're essentially dealing it a blow. You have to take it as a full package or not at all.
That's correct, Duoko. Let me give one other example. Let's assume the appellants win on the issue of basic structure, and the Court of Appeal says, actually, Kenyan Constitution doesn't have a basic structure. The High Court judges were wrong. But then they lose on the issue of popular initiative, that the president and state officers and public officers cannot be involved in propping a bill using state resources additionally and call it a popular initiative. What is the implication of that from a legal standpoint? It means that the bill is still defeated, because BBI bill, even though the question of basic structure they've succeeded, still they've failed on
the threshold of popular initiative.
On the question of the threshold of popular initiative. And you can say that with almost every example. Whether the verification by IBC was wrong, then the question there is if the court confirms that everything else, but says actually the only thing is IBC, the way you verified the signatures was wrong. So you have to go back to the verification process. So you're not, again, leapfrogging to the referendum, which is what the appellants would want. But then I say there is also the political implication. So we can discuss. There's more to discuss in the legal implication. But let me just highlight the political implication. Obviously, the first question is, can we expect political backlash against the court from the judges, from the politicians, rather? And certainly, again, when you look at that, what some people may call stellar cast of lawyers representing the government, in this case, of course, they are not looking to win, to lose. So there will be significant disappointment. And so you might hear politicians again go to what happened after the High Court and maybe the 2017 presidential scenario. But it may be less this time, because again, this case is not ending at the Court of Appeal. It's going to the Supreme Court. So whoever loses here, and especially the politicians, they feel like maybe they have another chance at the Supreme Court. And so they may wish to temper down their frustration or at least their public outrage as they wait for the Supreme Court.
So, I mean, if we're looking at scenarios now and how they would play out, I mean, let's look on the other side of it. And everything goes back and you have to restore factory settings. What would you predict for your political situation in the country, whereby BBI is not front and center in terms of conversation anymore, and then there's the insistence then on implementing the constitution as it is?
In fact, my own prediction, Duoko, is that we are going to factory settings very soon, sooner than a lot of people believe. If the appellants, and that is the government again, and the president and Raila Odinga, fail to succeed at the Court of Appeal, it becomes nearly impossible for them to hope to succeed at the Supreme Court. One, because it's very difficult to say that two lower courts on such a technical and difficult questions were totally wrong, and Supreme Court comes and overturns everything. It's extremely difficult. So they know that if they don't win now, they basically likely have lost the Supreme Court. Of course, they will keep fighting, if for nothing else, to save face. Mm-hmm. But the second reason why we will soon be going to factory setting is because we are getting to a situation where the people start wondering, are we going to focus on BBI or are we going to focus on 2022 elections? Yeah, we are getting very close. As you saw the other day, IBC already issued an informal calendar about timelines, and even certain activities that relates to actual election have to be completed as early as March next year. You've seen the deputy president say, let's just do the elections. Let's forget about referendum. Let's forget about destruction. We've seen the former vice president, Kalonzo, say we must have elections in August, the second Tuesday of August 2022. So, and what is not negotiable constitutionally is the date of the next election. That is set on stone, on constitutional stone. BBI and the referendum is tentative. Remember, we are only litigating process issues mostly. We have not even started litigating substantive issues. And what do I mean by that? What we've been litigating is whether the processes that were followed were right. If, for example, the appellants win at the High Court, at the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court, there will be more litigation. Asking, for example, is including a judiciary ombudsman right? Is that constitutional? Right? Is what Parliament did in terms of saying certain sections of the bill are unconstitutional and certain processes are suspects, and then going on to pass a bill, was that constitutional? There will be questions about something that a lot of people don't talk about, how the BBI chooses to treat the removal of Director of Public Prosecution, the issue about the police and the National Police Services and how it's treated. So there are so many substantive issues that will also be litigated. And by litigating those issues, it's very likely that will again restore BBI. So if there's anything that is very, very tentative, it's actually a referendum, almost a non-given. Certainly, we can't have a referendum by 2022. And to the extent that we don't have a referendum by August 2022, we'll get a new president because Kenyatta's term is over. Then is a new president going to be coming in? Even assuming it's Raila Odinga, is he going to be coming in and the first thing he wants to do is to get into a toxic conversation about changing the constitution? I highly doubt it.
So then why do you think the politicians are maintaining and saying this cause? Isn't it apparent to them, just like the way it is apparent to you, that, look, from where we are right now and the date of the next election, it's almost impossible for us to achieve what we are calling the constitutional moment, for us to amend the constitution? Or is this just a political tool that is, keeping Kenyans busy and creating what we call now the political divides where it's clearly seen these are the people who are for the Constitution Amendment, they are on one side, and these are the people who are lukewarm on the Constitution Amendment, they are on the other side, and then there are a few people who are against the Constitution Amendment on the other third political side. Is this just a political game then?
So maybe 2-3 points on that question, Eric. Do they see what we see? I think they do now. I don't think they saw it when they started this process. I think they got really bad legal advice. But secondly, they came with the arrogance that because they are the politicians, they are in power. And remember, this process saw the merge or closing of ranks of the two main politicians in Kenya. And I don't think at that point they had the arrogance that we fought separately. Now, if we combine our power, there is nothing that can stop us. They forgot there was a constitution to stop them. So they came with that arrogance. But why do they still want to keep going and investing so much now? Of course, because there are certain things which are at stake. The first one is obviously there are certain things I think genuinely they would want to reverse. If you look at the way the appeals were filed, the appeal that is filed on BBI, the issues about BBI, Popular Initiative and all that, that is mostly filed by Raila Odinga and the BBI Secretariat. The president actually hardly touches issues about BBI and whether it was there is a basic structure and things like that. The president's appeal mostly centers on himself. The fact that the court found that he had violated Chapter 6 and that he could be sued. And even looking at who appealed what, you can tell what the different people's interests are. So Raila is really determined to save BBI, and so all his lawyers, that's all they're focusing on. The president is very busy trying to save himself. He forgot the entirety of the other parts of BBI. IBC has appealed on the issues of signatures. It's appealed on issues of its own quorum. IBC has not appealed on the 70 constituencies because IBC knows that what BBI was trying to do on the 70 constituencies is illegal. Of course, the BBI Secretariat, because the BBI Secretariat and Raila Odinga are trying to use BBI as a vehicle for political mobilization, they've appealed on the 70 constituencies. And that is the third, that takes me to my third point. The other and the main reason, especially for Raila Odinga, in my own view and in my own speculation, is because BBI has actually been good for him as a political tool of mobilization where the state is able to use resources and he can ride on that wave. Remember, one of the bigger issue or one of the bigger problems is that BBI has been funded through state resources. Running campaigns obviously is expensive. This has given Odinga a platform largely paid or facilitated by the state, and for somebody who looks to continue remaining relevant so that he can contest the presidential election, to some extent, there is still something to be gained by keeping BBI alive, even when he knows that it's going nowhere.
Waikwa, thank you very much, as always, for joining us and for clearly articulating the issues so well to us. Asante sana. Waikwa Wanyoike is a constitutional lawyer. He's been telling us what to expect, the battles and then the expectations as this battle goes to the Court of Appeal. 7 Court of Appeal judges will begin today hearing cases for and against the BBI process. Thank you very much, Waikwa. Have a lovely day.
Thank you for inviting me.
At 5 minutes to 9 o'clock, it's time for us to take a break and say goodbye to our audience on KTN Home. This conversation continues on Spice FM. You can switch over to Spice FM 97.7. If you're in Malindi, in Nyeri, it's 90.9. Eldoret, 96.7, 96.0 in Nakuru, 102.5 in Kisumu, 87.9 in Mombasa, and Nairobi is 94.4. Jobs.standardmedia.co.ke. Remember to visit that website and see how many jobs have been listed there today. Very many, and it's an opportunity for you to go there, find a job, and if you don't find any relevant job today, just subscribe and you will receive job alerts on your SMS or email whenever they are posted. Good morning.
Spice FM, Nakuru.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, just the way you like it.
The Spice Drive.
Did you have a great day? I hope you did. I intend to make it better from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. I'm going to be taking you home nice and chill. Everyone is welcome aboard. The hashtag is Spice Drive and, of course, SpiceFM KE on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
The Spice Drive with Monique. The official soundtrack of getting you where you need to be. This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
The conversation continues. Just like Waiko has said, there are many issues here that to look at politically and from the legal side, the implications of the outcome of this particular case on the legal side, and on governance and what Kenyans want. What is it that Kenyans want to see end? It's the biggest pandemic that we've had forever.
Yeah, what Kenyans really want to see end, and I'm convinced of this more and more as we have these conversations, that Kenyans actually do want to see corruption end. That Kenyans want to see a situation whereby what you pay for that sustains your livelihood is actually seen from end to end. That you can live in this country and that you don't feel as though, there's clearly no evidence of public funds going to waste or going to line a few pockets, whereby it should be able to cater for very many things, from education to health, etc., etc. The real pandemic here that we are continuously faced with is corruption. And I dare say that if you get rid of this illness, if you get rid of this cancer, then that you're able to get rid of so many other things in the country that continue to plague people. So I think our eyes need to continuously be focused on the real pandemic and looking at ways in which this can actually be sorted.
I agree with you, and I think it manifests in many ways. For example, in my opinion, this whole conversation about moving towards a constitutional change, just like Waiko has said, it's clear, must be clear to the politicians, the political leaders, that the likelihood of actually getting the amendments before the next general election, nil. And if you go into the next election and you have a change of government, the likelihood of continuing this conversation post that election and into a new government almost diminished. Then the corruption here is shifting our attention from what really matters. Today, there's a story in the papers about what's happening in Kakamega Teaching and Referral Hospital, where patients are going and they're reportedly unable to get a bed to be admitted for COVID-19. And those that get admission are told, bring your own oxygen cylinder. Counties in the area are grappling with where to get oxygen. And oxygen is one of the things that's really needed at this point for the patients of COVID-19. There's a rise in the number of cases of COVID-19. This is not the first time. It's not the first wave. Every time we've seen the waves, we have talked about oxygen and the effort being made to address the needs of our healthcare facilities in terms of getting access to oxygen has just been swept away. Governors are focusing us on, we should be allowed to directly import vaccines instead of how are you going to make sure that, for example, Kisumu County does not rely on Kisii for oxygen? I think that's
the focus.
Yeah, if we look at that and see, any other conversation is shifting our focus away from what really is ailing us and what we need on a daily basis today. That is part of the pandemic. That is corruption.
That is the real pandemic.
We want to hear from you in the next hour, 0719-012-600. That's where you can join the conversation. Also, you can join the conversation on our social media platforms, SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or our website, www.spicefm.co.ke. In the next hour, we want to have a conversation with you, court of public opinion. So yes, this case starts. But where is the Mwananchi's thought? Are we at a constitutional moment or are we not? Because that's basically it. The president has said we are at a constitutional moment, and
Kenyans
that's why we
feel as
need.
if a change is
Are we
in
there
office?
yet? Are we at a constitutional moment at this point in time? Let's hear from you. 0719-012-600. But that's in the next hour after we get the news. Good morning. It's now 9 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning, this is the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga. The stage is all set for the BBI case that will begin today, and appeals will be had for the next 4 days. A 7-judge bench will hear of appeals against the Supreme Court's decision to outlaw the BBI process. The panel's decision will determine whether the country will proceed to a referendum or not. The appeal emanated from a decision by High Court Judge Joel Ngugi, George Odunga, Jairus Nga, Chacha Mwita and Teresia Madeka on May, declaring that the BBI process was illegal, unconstitutional, null and void.
A declaration is hereby made that Mr. Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta has contravened Chapter 6 of the Constitution by initiating and promoting a constitution change process contrary to the provisions of the Constitution on amendment of the Constitution. 8. A declaration is hereby made that the entire unconstitutional change process promoted by the Steering Committee on the Implementation of the Building Bridges to United Kenya Task Force report is unconstitutional, null and void.
Secondary school parents will pay the revised and reduced fees on the onset of the new academic year. Education PS Julius Juan has also assured Form 1 parents that all their children will be transitioned to secondary school. Learners in national and extra county schools in Nairobi, Mombasa, Kisumu, Nakuru, Eldoret, Thika and Nyeri will pay 45,000 shillings per year, and those in all other boarding schools, including extra county schools that are located in other areas, will now pay 35,000 shillings.
I signed a circular that was reducing the school fees. I think for national schools it was by about 8,000 to 10,000. For county and extra county it was about 5,000. Now that was based on the revised term dates. If you remember, for each of the terms we have reviewed the term dates because of the limited time that we have, but within the time that we know we can cover the syllabus adequately.
The shortage of vaccinologists in the country may result in the delay of the government to be certified to produce locally made COVID-19 vaccinations. Kemri Acting Director General Sam Kariuki says the government needs to work on ways on ensuring that we build our capacity for vaccine development.
One of the things that we must do as an institution through the Ministry of Health is to build our own capacity for vaccine development. There are very few people who have been trained in vaccine production and who can literally say that we can amass a large number of people to be able to do commercial production. By fast-tracking some of this training, we can identify a good team of people who can be fast-tracking training, and we can collaborate with countries like South Africa.
And finally, a suspected Al-Shabaab terrorist has been killed after police intercepted a donkey carrying 2 AK-47 rifles and bomb-making materials at the main border in Liboi, Garissa County. Northeastern Regional Commissioner Nicodemus Ndalana says they're yet to know the intended destination of the weapons. That's the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, so we're still looking at heavy traffic in most parts of Nairobi this morning. We see that it's quite hot and heavy on Murang'a Road coming in from Thika Road. Getting into the CBD is looking like a nightmare right around now. Also from Mombasa Road, it is seriously thick going from the Nyeri Stadium roundabout through to Westlands. That Uhuru Highway thing, guys, if you can avoid it, please do. Go out in order to get in. The Museum Hill ramp also, there's an issue there. We know that it's going to be closed for some time, so let's watch out for that, okay? Getting around about a few minutes after 9 o'clock. Let's see what it looks like in about half an hour. We should be out of traffic hour by then, but we'll keep an eye on things, okay? SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
It's 5 minutes after 9 o'clock. Good morning to you, and thank you very much for tuning into the Situation Room today. It's Tuesday, the 29th day of June 2021. Today's proverb, kila chombo kwa wimbile. Kila chombo kwa wimbile. Every vessel has its own wave. Every penguin has a song. Kila chombo kwa wimbile. All right, and that's the proverb. So, as we're having a conversation with Waiko Anyoike, a number of comments that we've seen, like this one by Boit Barsite. This case, headlined by the Standard, is shaping out to be state against the citizens. The state being so drunk with power that it cannot listen to the people. The Court of Appeal must align itself to the people. We, the people, are opposed to the BBI. Well, even King Mswati of Eswatini had to run. Yeah, the reports, unconfirmed reports indicate that the king of Eswatini may have fled the country because of what is reported to be demonstrations by the people that then are reported to have gotten violent because people started torching shops.
Right.
And
he feared for his life, essentially.
And that's what's being reported. The SABC, the South African Broadcasting Corporation, says King Mswati III of Eswatini, thousands of people have taken to social media after reports that King Mswati of Eswatini has fled the kingdom after pro-democracy protests turned into chaos. There are unconfirmed reports that protesters went on the rampage and set fire to several shops in Matsapa. Several people have also been injured during the protests. So it's still not very well clear or confirmed. Where is the king? Maybe he's still somewhere. Maybe those around him are basically just protecting him. Or maybe he has actually left the country. And if he has left the country, then where has he gone to?
Where has he gone?
The people are basically protesting and they want democracy. What they want is this is an absolute monarchy, Eswatini, formerly known as Swaziland. And the people are saying, no, we don't want absolute monarchy. We want to be like, maybe even if we want to retain some monarchy, we want to have the power to directly elect our representatives and have a say on governance. So back to the situation in this country. Is the government and the political leaders at the helm of government pushing ahead with the wishes of the people of Kenya? Or are the people of Kenya and their leaders thinking and reading from different scripts? And here's the thing. The president has more than once said, look, guys, it's been 10 years of implementing the current constitution. There are things that have emerged, and those things then require us to have a conversation. And he has said it more than once. We are at a constitutional moment where we need to embrace the fact that we are at a constitutional moment and see how can we tweak and improve our constitution. There are those who have said, absolutely not. We need to, first of all, fully implement the current constitution. The things that appear as challenges are appearing as challenges because there are some facets of the constitution that have not been implemented the way they should have been implemented. So the whole conversation about the BBI, and not the BBI, the whole conversation about using the BBI conversation and it coming out as the people want changes in the constitution is now where the divide falls. There are people who say, yes, BBI is good because of the handshake and because of what the handshake represents. The handshake has brought peace, tranquility, and stability in the country, politically, which has also helped economically. There are those that say that is okay, it's true, but separate that from the fact that we need to amend the constitution. Do we therefore need to amend the constitution so that in future it does not have to be the goodwill of two political leaders to shake hands so that we can have assured peace in the country? Or should we amend the constitution so that we take the lessons of the handshake in March 2018 and put them in our supreme law and say that we shall be having handshake governments going forward, or governments that reflect the will of majority and the second majority?
Does it take into consideration ever when we are looking at what governments come together on in terms of a coalition? When a coalition is coming about, or when there's a handshake moment, for example, does it ever take into consideration what the people want? Or at that point, are you dealing with two, would it be warring factions, two individuals who need to come together to then be placated on what they have been feeling is going to bring out issues of turmoil in the country? More often than not, it is not the will of the people that is being considered. It is not what the people want. What is happening is that two individuals who've not been able to come to a consensus on issues have now been able to, as it were, come to a consensus. You see what I mean? It's not about what the people feel. It's that you and I have been on opposite sides. And for some reason, one has been declared the loser, another one has been declared the victor, and we've not been able to agree on this. And because of that, then now we say, let's have a coalition government. These people that we want to rule over, it is the two of us now who will make the decisions on how this is going to happen. The people are rarely involved in this situation. Rarely.
Well, the argument also has been that when we have first past the post and winner take all, then you're not factoring in. First of all, a winner is defined as the one that gets 50% of the votes plus one. One vote more than 50%, you have won. All right? So what about the other person who got 49%? If the 49% of the country did not vote for you, how do you factor those 49% in governance? All right? And that's where now the argument comes in. No, winner does not take all. Winner shares the spoils with the losers in some way. And let's come up with a formula so that everybody feels that I'm included in this government. And is that our problem? Is that what ails us? Is it because, and I keep asking that, we have winner take all on all the 6 elections.
And nobody has an issue with it.
When you have issues at the MCA level, do people say, okay, we voted for Ndu as the MCA, now we should bring in all the other people, and now they should also have a say in the assembly? We don't.
Nobody has an issue
with it. We don't say there should be a deputy, opposition governor.
Nope. No.
It's only in the one seat at the national level.
Why?
So is it a problem of winner take all, or is it a problem of personalities?
I don't see that the perception would change when you get to one character. If Kenyans or if any country at this point has an issue with, has no issue around an election, it's unlikely that it would change when you get to one individual. Because you don't have a problem one individual being an MCA over the others who have lost. You don't have an issue with somebody being a member of parliament, a senator, a governor, a women's rep. You don't have an issue with that. So what happens when it becomes this individual? Because it's probably that this individual is seen to be the most divisive over the country, because of the fact that they would essentially be the executive and they rule over everybody. That I follow the individual who is either from my backyard or I follow the individual who speaks the same language as me. And it is that individual upon which most of the power is put. And that's where most of the contention comes about. It is this individual. It's not these other, because they feel as if their influence is not as much as the one who sits in the executive.
So it's a perception issue then?
Absolutely.
It's people's perception.
Yes, that this person is essentially coming in to be president.
People actually invest individually, just on any ordinary voter, they invest a lot more importance
in who's going to be the president,
in the presidency, than in the MCA slot. Yes. MCA is okay. I don't have to vote for MCA, but president, I must.
Do you hear today, for example, when we're talking about taking responsibility when it comes to the administration of justice, when you're talking about the operations of government, do you hear anybody saying, in fact, the reason why we are not seeing, when we're seeing disobedience of court orders, for example, or disobedience of court orders, when we're seeing that there's rampant corruption, do you hear that somebody talks about the MCA from London Ward as being responsible for it? No.
Because the MCA has not been issued a court order.
So, this is what I'm saying. the majority of the responsibility for running this country, or running any country for that matter, is put in the hands of the executive. And so therefore, when I'm making a decision about who will come in to be the executive, the majority of my expectation is placed on this individual. That's why you find there's so much contention about this particular election. Did people go crazy wanting to kill each other in 2007 over a member of parliament position? No, they did not. No, they didn't.
So then are you saying that there are sufficient grounds to have that conversation and say, winner should not take it all?
No.
We should have a more inclusive government then. We should change our system of governance where the person who contests and wins the seat of president is okay, they get it. But then the person who contests and becomes the first runner-up in that election should also be recognized because they represent a huge constituency. And then the other people who also contest and they, get something, they should also be recognized. And that's why we have the positions of prime minister.
I don't know about recognition. You put up a spirited fight, then you allow this person to lead and try again next time.
It's because what we have said is this person actually does not just represent their own wishes. They represent a constituency. So when the person is made a prime minister, it is that constituency that supported him, that or her, that takes over that position of
Are
prime
we saying
minister.
that when somebody
they're
is putting
representing that?
So when you're voting for this individual, it's not because that they've been able to convince you or they have a certain je ne sais quoi about how they carry themselves. It is that this person is actually representing me.
Yes.
That's why people vote
Yes.
right now. It has nothing to do with that you came by and that in your last speech you were able to convince me or that I like the way you look or anything like that. It actually is that this person is representing me. If that is the case, that this person is representing my needs, this person is representing my aspirations.
Now, when you start defining, that's where now the issue becomes grey.
Now, when I'm
The
saying
thing
this,
is,
I'm
they
saying this, if
represent
that
me.
is the case.
Something about me they represent.
If that is the case, then you should have a shared government.
There's something about me that they represent. I feel that they're there. It's like when Usain Bolt runs and wins, he represents Jamaica. Okay? Now, the second person is from America. America wants to feel, come on. Our guy was a few seconds just behind Usain Bolt. Let him also get up onto the podium.
Nope.
Get the silver medal.
Nope.
Let the other person get the bronze medal.
Nope.
Or if Usain Bolt and another Jamaican all sweep it, let all of them be at the top. But let's recognize the effort that has been made by the number two.
But that's what happens now. If you both cross the finishing line at the same time, you share the podium. That's what happens. But in this case, I was able to because if during the race I slowed down and allowed you to catch up, that's totally different. But I put in all my effort. I had all the wind assisted that I needed, all of that.
Your
I came
lungs,
first.
everything.
Everything. I put together my entire machinery to work in congruence and tandem, and I won. And this and the other individuals came behind me. It's okay.
Yes.
Let me take my position.
You take the
as a
position,
victor.
there's a podium, you shall take that position of winner.
Yes.
Which is higher above everybody else.
Yes.
But there are other two positions that we must
Take
recognize.
gold and silver.
Exactly. Now, that is a whole argument that's also being
Silver and
advanced
bronze, yes.
by these ones. That you shall win, you shall become president and deputy president. Then there'll be a silver medal and there'll be a bronze medal. Such that the three of you shall be up there. The silver and the bronze means that one, we shall recognize the biggest loser and they get something. And two, should the biggest loser also be like the leader of the largest coalition in the National Assembly, they are likely to actually become prime minister, which means they get a podium as number two, proper silver. Or somebody else, somebody from your line and your coalition could become the prime minister. They take that silver position, but the biggest loser has a guaranteed bronze. So we are all feeling represented. Even those that supported the biggest loser. The big winner gets recognized. The biggest loser gets recognized. And there, we are assured of a handshake. We don't have to say that this person has to go and look for the other one in the middle of the night and they sit there sipping coffee, looking at each other for 1 hour without talking, and then they talk and no.
If I agree, I'm looking at it and say, okay, actually, it does make some sense. However, what are the reasons why you wanted to have this shared governance in the first place? So, because if that is the case, why have this entire competition? The competition then gives you an opportunity for you to say, this person then comes out. Then why not? Well, let's just say political parties, you suggest to us who you want to be in this race as a presidential candidate. Then let us pick from the best, and then you decide, okay, from each political party we shall have one person, and then they rule together. Why have a competition? Because that's what elections are. Elections are essentially a competition. Why bother?
The competition is so we know who takes the gold and who takes the silver.
So you know who sits at the top?
Yes. Who is it that shall declare war, has the power to declare war, shall assent to laws, shall have the executive authority? And then who is it that shall form the opposition? That is the argument that's being pushed, right? Among other things, for this constitutional moment. They argue that we have lived experience. We have seen what happened to us in 2007, and we saw the reality of getting a handshake and a shared coalition government. We saw that. We saw what that led to. Then we also saw 2013. We saw one winner take it all, and we saw the sour grapes that the biggest loser and their supporters had for 5 years. We saw the same repeat itself in 2017, and we stopped ourselves by having a handshake. So instead of taking ourselves to that point where we shall be having handshakes every time, why don't we just legislate this handshake? One argument.
Because it becomes, because it comes extremely ugly when people then actually resort to violence because their position has not been heard. Right?
Yep.
Are we then saying that in order to avoid violence, in the manner in which it has previously happened, to the point where the country is at the brink of collapse, then let's just allow people to share power because we've not been able to conduct ourselves in a manner better than that? And make a decision and legislate this from the top.
Yep. So the question that is are we really at a constitutional moment? Because that's the argument that's been pushed by the proponents of BBI, by the president himself, by Raila Odinga. We are at a constitutional moment. We need to look at our constitution. We need to see what's working. We need to accept what's not working, and let's fix it. Going forward, let's fix it. As the Court of Appeal begins its hearings today, as everything else starts today, the Court of Public Opinion then, we're asking, are we at a constitutional moment? I have held my views on very many occasions on this particular matter. I have issues with the process of BBI. I have issues with very many things. Also on the issue of the sharing of power, I think our biggest problem is individuals. It's individuals. We agreed to devolve power so that we remove this problem. We remove this headache. We devolve power. We say that the national executive, the president, yes, you have some powers, that this is what you can do. And then there are 47 governors who have local power, and this is what they can do. You have a National Assembly and a Senate, that this is what you can do. This is how you can keep the executive in check. So all the power is no longer concentrated here. But the people who are still here, the current crop of top political leaders, they cannot go below the presidency. They still want to occupy that seat of the presidency. So they still are pushing for acknowledgement and realization at that level.
Do you know why?
So in my opinion, we are not at a constitutional moment.
But do you know what I see the problem is from the very beginning? If at the initial concept that the politics of any country was issue-based and not individualistic, then I think you would have solved this problem. Because here you are, and one individual is not ready to cede this position, and the other individual also is fighting for it. But can you imagine if you started from the premise of we are dealing with issues in this country at the political party level? At the political party level, it's not trying to elevate one individual, but what it is doing is essentially it's elevating issues so that whomever comes into the position is not working from a position of I, but is working from a position of these are the issues that this country is facing right now. And these are the ideologies that we hold that will allow us to sort out these issues.
Yes.
I think if you go back to the very beginning, the problem is that we elevate individuals from the political party level, and that runs the same thread all the way to the top when now you're dealing with elections and presidential seats and such. But if you're dealing with issues, it doesn't matter. Look at other nations whereby, yes, you have a fight. You have a competition between the two at the end of the day. But one is able to cede. One is able to cede. Why? Because it is the issues that have taken precedence from the beginning. It is not the individual that has been elevated.
Yes.
Because the individual has been elevated, that's why you say, oh, okay, then I need to be able to share the podium with somebody else. No. If it is the issues that are being tackled from the very beginning, you will not have this issue. And that's what I've always said. It must be that politics in any country, especially when you're dealing with those who claim to have some kind of democracy, that it must be the issues and ideologies that you chase on a daily basis. Where are you with your economics? Where are you with your development? Where are you with your people's power? If you're dealing with those issues, all this nonsense that we're hearing about individuals and how they need to be shared power, it won't come up. Because you all come from the point that there are issues that need to be sorted.
But you see, the problem, another big problem is that the voter does not have those issues at the forefront.
I think it's a two-sum game here.
And that's why this political leader is coming up with them.
As the solution.
Yes, it's the brand of the personality is what is the solution, not the issues, not how you prioritize. I am not judging you by, okay, you understand the issues, yes, but what is your prioritization of how you want to tackle them? So that I can say this one wants to deal with healthcare first before they build more roads, and this one wants to build more roads before they deal with healthcare. Which one do I want to go for?
But when we look
because the issues will always be the same.
Sure, but when we look at headlines, Eric, what are we looking at? We're always looking at an individual. We're looking at an individual said this, an individual did that or the other. When are we going to... The only way you will see that you're making that shift is when you start to see that healthcare, for example, has taken a major dip because this, and this, or has taken a shot in the arm because this individual and their party pack has been able to push a particular agenda. Then you will begin to see that issues change. You will be able to see that somebody who comes and offers themselves as a solution rather than a reform agenda as a solution to this particular issue that you face. When we see that shift, all these things we're talking about, sharing of power and handshake and coalition government, will not come into play. The reason why you have coalition governments is because you have egos that are sitting and playing politics that are not able to be satisfied by the status quo. That's it. Remove the individual from all of this and focus on the issues that really need to be addressed when it comes to a country. You will not have this nonsense playing
So
out.
who will remove the individual from the conversation? It's not the individual who will remove themselves.
No, of course not. But
it's the people.
It is, absolutely.
So currently the people... The entire journey towards having the 2010 constitution, right, was premised on the people want something different. The people want self-determination on what is important to them. At the local level. And that's why we said devolution, Majimbo, whatever. It came to devolution. Devolution so that you devolve power. You devolve decision-making. You devolve accountability. You make accountability closer to the people. And people voted overwhelmingly yes. But even after voting that way in the constitution, in the next election, they still focused on, hey, we want our man at the top. We want our woman at the top. We want, the MCA. If the MCA, the one who has good ideas, is the one who's aligned to the person who is seeking that top position, we, the people, are still stuck at that point. And that's what it sounds like. It sounds like we're there. We want to open up the phone lines as we take this break. 0719-012-600. Are we at a constitutional moment? President Uhuru Kenyatta has said it more than once. He has said, yes, where we are, we need this BBI process. We are at a constitutional moment. We need to review and amend and tweak our constitution to make it work. Are we there? Yegon, good morning.
Good morning, Eric. Andu.
Good morning.
Morning to you.
I think we are not in a constitutional crisis. What is happening is that we are just trying to satisfy some individuals. This ailing Kenyans is the unfair institutions like IBC, the leadership at the top, and even the leadership from the opposition. If today we have a handshake, today we have PPI proposal document only because of the results of the IBC. The systems which have been put up, there is no transparency. Look, before that we had the results were protested in the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court ordered that the IBC should even open the servers. But they did. They didn't. After that, the courts asked us to go for a rerun election. but the other partner could not accept because he knows that this body that we have doesn't give us credential results. So if today we are saying that PPI will solve the process, they will solve the winner take it all, that is wrong. Because look, even the appointment of the Prime Minister still comes from the majority party. And in some sections, this PPI tends to kill the opposition in the future. Because in some clauses of the appointment of the Prime Minister says that if the Prime Minister is appointed from the opposition party, the position of the official opposition leader ceases to exist. And right now, we are only in crisis because the 2010 constitution has not been implemented fully. If we could have implemented this constitution, I think what Uhuru Kenyatta is saying could not exist. Because even the appointment of the ministers, the CAS, all the appointments are aligned to the, if you are aligning yourself with the president and the unity of the support. So today we have handshake from another coalition, but who is beneficiary? The presidential aspirant.
Yep.
We are not seeing the benefits of handshake in the side of Kalonzo.
In the supporters.
Yes, in the supporters. Of course. So this document cannot solve the winner take it all forever if we cannot equip our systems to give us a fair results. We have courts which can give a substantial ruling without an interference from an extended camp.
Thank
in
you.
the morning, when Wanyuike said, I agree with him that even this Supreme Court, this Court of Appeal process will help the Supreme Court. Because no matter how much you bring in the heavyweights in law, I think there is no way even a prosecutor can prove something which is wrong to be right because you are just an heavyweight.
Okay. Thank you, Egon.
Thank you.
Have a good day. Audrey in Kinoa, good morning.
Morning, Eric. How are you?
Very well, thanks. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Morning, Bill.
Good morning, Audrey.
I don't think, I believe we are not yet at a constitutional moment. Because, first of all, when this constitution was being made, it was after the 2007-2008 post-election violence, right?
Yes.
And Raila was there.
Yes.
He saw the effects of winner takes it all.
Yes.
If really that was the problem, then it could have been addressed back then when the constitution was still being drafted. Before we even voted for it. This is something that should have been addressed way back then. So clearly this is not about the people. This is about individuals who thought they would win the elections, but when they didn't, they feel like they're now becoming bitter people and they want something in return.
They want relevance. They want to maintain relevance after an election.
Exactly. And this our constitution as it is, if only we were able to implement it fully, then we will be able to see its benefits.
Okay.
We haven't implemented the constitution as it is supposed to be. And we are already thinking about changing it. How about we implement it fully? When we find out there are issues to be addressed, let us address those issues. See how it works out. If it doesn't, then fully work out completely after addressing all.
We've lost Audrey. Karanja, good morning.
Good morning, Eric and Du.
Good morning, Karanja.
Yes, now, there was an article which was read by Seriousness after the promulgation of the new constitution in 2010 and 2013. And it's something that fears that power corrupts and the absolute power corrupts
absolutely, yes.
Surely. Now you remember, there was a conversation. If I am not wrong, you can help me. If I'm wrong, a prime minister, an Indian prime minister, sometimes back, called Nehru, was being interviewed by an anchor, a television anchor, a French anchor, Andre, I don't know something what. And when he was asked what about the difference, we are already in 50 years. And he was asked, what can yet be? He said, adjusted by just means. So, the thing is, now look at the issue of the BBI. The BBI, Eric, is good to me. One of the reasons that I can say the BBI is good is because it says about the parliamentary system of governance, where an MP can be elected right now, and that MP can become a minister. When an MP like Karaja in Naivasha can be an MP in Naivasha, and they can be the minister for roads, for instance. Other MPs can be ready to ask any question. They cannot be referred to committees where they go for 4 months, 6 months before they get an answer. I think this is another system. Another thing is, look, when there was a prime minister's time in the parliament, it was very well, because you can remember there was this time for prime minister time. He was given 30 minutes to answer questions. Depending on the issue. So it's good. Let us not look that because it happens around the court, what happened, this and this. But BBI is good because even the role of opposition, for instance, Raila Odinga had 76.8 million votes. Uhuru Kenyatta had 80-point-something million votes. So sometimes it says the majority have their way and the minority have their say. So thank you very much, Eric. Do have a average.
Have a good one, Karanjan. Thank you very much. We have John and Zachary on the line. Just stay on the line, gentlemen, and let's take this quick break. See how the traffic is looking like at 23 minutes to 10 o'clock. Kenya's biggest conversation continues. Remember, jobs.standardmedia.co.ke is a portal you need to log to and see the many jobs that have been listed there. Very many have been listed by various organizations. The United Nations is looking for a program management officer, temporary job opening, P3. Gap Recruitment Services is looking for a solar sales engineer on behalf of their client. And very many other organizations that have posted jobs. Temporary appointment for human resources manager at UNICEF. UN Habitat is looking for senior Power Apps and SharePoint developer. And United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime is looking for a consultant, plead national public information expert. Apply, and all the best.
Thank you.
The political class, the contestants, everybody is trying to outsteal the other.
Remorse is not taught in any school. Manners is something you get from your mother. You don't get it from your political party.
Why are we so unfocused as a country? Why are we spending money and resources, yet we have real challenges in this country?
This coronavirus pandemic should teach us one thing, that universal healthcare is critical. Because at this point, whether you have a medical card that covers you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. The weather with SpiceFM.
All right, rain at 16 in Nairobi, highs of 22, lows of 14. It's also raining in some parts of Nyeri at 15, highs of 21 and lows of 13. 24 will be the high in Nakuru. It's sunny at 17. It's also sunny in Eldoret at 17, highs of 23 and lows of 12. 18 will be the low in a sunny Kisumu at 22. It's also sunny in Kakamega at 22, highs of 26, coming down to lows of 14. 25 degrees and rain showers in Mombasa, highs of 28 and lows of 23. We're looking at a low of 24 in Malindi, where it's also raining in some parts at 25. 25 will be the high in Kampala. It's raining at 22. Mostly cloudy conditions at 26 in Dar es Salaam, highs of 30 and lows of 22. 15 degrees and sunny in Johannesburg, highs of 22 and lows of 10. We're looking at highs of 30 and lows of 24 in a rainy Lagos. And cloudy conditions in Kinshasa at 27 will be the high, coming down to lows of 20. Beijing at 27 is sunny, highs of 28, lows of 22. 18 will be the high in Paris, where it continues to rain with thunderstorms warning at yellow. 15 15 degrees and cloudy in London, highs of 18 and lows of 13. New York is getting a heat advisory. It's already 26, looking at going to highs of 34 today and lows of 27.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
All right, officially we're out of traffic hour as things get to a dull roar, but it looks like it's still a little bit crazy, especially on Thika Road coming out into the city. We're looking at Langata Road, which is quite tight right now. Uhuru Highway, we know what that looks like. We're still going to have to find the best way to maneuver around this. We're also looking at Drama. Around the North Airport Road, outer ring area, going towards what was Chargemore at some point. Guys, it's slowing down a little bit, but we know it's going to pick up towards the early parts of the afternoon. So stay safe. And also let us know if you run into anything that other folks need to know about. How do you do that? SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text is 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
20 minutes to
94.
Let's go to the phone lines, starting with John of Elbagon. John, good morning.
Morning. How are you guys?
Very well, thanks.
Yes. Now, in our constitutional moment, is like a woman in labor.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't have to be told. She will know that she's in labor. So this constitutional moment that somebody be reminding us all the time does not exist. We will know when we are in the constitution. Like 2010, we knew it was a constitutional moment. Nobody told us that we are in a constitutional moment. It was just obvious. It will just flow. You don't have to be reminded. You don't have to be in a speech that we are in a constitutional moment.
Okay.
And then as we talk about individuals, to me, and we're having this discussion with some people, and we are saying there are only 3 people in this country. If you remove them in the matrix, in the equation, then we're not even having this issue. Only 3.
Who are those 3?
They are not the president, Raila, and to some extent the deputy president. If you don't have those people in this equation, we'll not even be having this discussion. Because the issue is not the presidency. The issue is not the way to some extent, okay, the way the election is being run. But the issue is that these 3 people are the problem, and if we don't have them, then we don't have this problem.
Then we don't have the problem.
We don't have the problem.
There's
not even many people. They are not even more than 3. Let me tell you, only those 3. You deal with them, we'll not even be having this problem. We are fine. People will be losing election and accepting and moving on. But as long as we have these 3 people, and the most dangerous thing is to try and change the constitution with 2 or 3 people in mind.
To suit them.
That is very dangerous.
Thank you, John.
We change the constitution for the whole country, not for 2 or 3 people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a lovely day. Enoch in Kiambu, good morning.
Good morning, Eric. How are you?
Very well, thanks.
I think John was reading my mind. Yeah.
No, we are not in a constitutional moment.
Sure, we are not. And if we are in one, in part we will all be crying. Everybody will want to have it done, and we'll have all groups within the society desiring to have the constitution changed. But the only person who says we are in a constitutional moment is the president. Yeah, the rest we are okay. And when we say that we have an MP to be in parliament and then be
minister,
also appointed as a minister, what is the work of an MP? The two basic, not actually basic, actually the main work of an MP is oversight legislation. How is he going to oversight himself when he is a minister? So there is a lot of contradiction on all this, and I think BBI is meant only for, I can say, the top leadership in this grouping of the tribes. It is made to serve them. It's not meant to serve Kenyans.
Not for the people.
Not for the people at all.
Thank you very much, Mwalimu Enoch. Have a lovely day.
Thank you. Most welcome.
Zachary in Nakuru, good morning.
Oh, thank you, and good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
To you.
This is the longest wait I've had in a long time.
Thank you for
But it's
waiting.
okay. Now, thank you. Now, let me ask you a question,
Ask.
or remind you that you have heard this we call kids who throw tantrums. Those kids entirely drive on your ability now to pay attention to things, yeah?
Yep.
If a kid throws tantrums, right now you have said, okay, every day we shall have an egg after every each day, yeah? So you are skipping a day, and the other kids agree. But there's one kid who has noted that you always pay attention to his or her tantrums. We always do that, and there is a law that says after every day, right now we have an egg today, tomorrow we are not having, yeah? That is a simple law to follow. Let me say this. The Constitution clearly says that the winner is the one person who is going to have 50 plus 1.
Yeah.
And then somebody said there that the majority win, but those who have been won, they have their say, yeah? And their say is guaranteed in the Constitution. That whether I'm in North Province, whether I'm in Western or wherever, the Constitution protects me that I should get whatever is I ought to get from the government. Yeah?
Yep.
Because I'm a citizen and I pay tax, so I don't care whoever won. Okay.
Yeah.
So this 50 plus 1 is just a ceremony to say, okay, because we are country, we want to have a formality. So Eric is our leader. But that does not mean that because Du was in the election and she was defeated, she became number 2, that we deny her oxygen, we deny her water, we deny her road. No.
That's true.
She has her say. She has her say in the Constitution. The Constitution has given her say. Do you understand? And therefore, what I'm trying to drive is this, yeah? Look at what you are trying to say that let us look at the occurrences. After every election, there is only one person. Remember, Mr. Uhuru Kenyatta and Mr. Odinga, they have not been the only two contestants. There are others.
Yes.
Two others concede. Okay?
Yep.
And a gentleman always comes and says, okay, today I tried to call SpiceFM, but there are others who are before me. Okay? And they had the right to be received first because they came before me, isn't it?
And you concede.
As I concede, I say, okay, tomorrow is another day. I'll try. And then we move on, okay?
Thank you, Zachary.
Thank you, and have a nice day.
You
Cheers,
too.
thank you.
Joanne in Kilimani, good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
So, I mean, everybody who's called before me has said the same thing, which is we are not in a constitutional moment. This is it's a man-orchestrated ego trip, to be honest. I feel like the current regime had a golden opportunity to implement the Constitution. Not only did they not implement it, but they butchered it to tiny pieces. And you know what? If you think about other jurisdictions across the globe, what's so wrong about the winner takes it all? That's how elections are.
Yep.
That's how you raise your kids. You don't raise your kids saying that all of you must be number one. No, they know that there's going to be a winner today, there's going to be a loser the next day. And so I feel like the winner takes it all narrative is a crutch that they're leaning on just to stoke the emotions of Kenyans. And they've used it in the past, and it's just not working anymore. And the truth of the matter is, somebody, John, I think said that when a woman is going into labor, there's no question.
She will know.
She will know, and we will all know.
Yep.
Right? And that's the moment that we're in right now is not constitutional. What it is an economic upheaval. You know, the reason why the hustler dynasty narrative has, echoed with many people is because we are struggling to eke a living. It's just simple things as going to the supermarket and just, I was in the supermarket yesterday and I was like, how can this product be almost 200 more than it was 2 weeks ago when I bought it?
Right. Right. And there's not enough filling for your shilling is what we're looking at here.
No, my shilling literally just limps to the counter. That's the moment that we're in. And not only are we smack in the middle of an economy, and I work with communities in low income areas, and you will see the economic struggle. You don't even have to be told. Now, if we're talking about a moment, we're in an economic moment. We're talking about a place where people can't afford basic necessities. I know a ton of people who literally eat only one meal a day. That is their reality. So as we, work around massaging people's egos here because they, for some reason, feel like leadership is their birthright, people are dying, not only because of the pandemic, but also because they can't make a living. There's just no money in circulation.
So this is what we're looking at, Joanne, is that, you know what, if these so-called leaders who wanted to be in a position of governance and leadership in this country took into consideration the issues that are holding this country ransom, as opposed to wanting to uplift their characters and their individualistic approach to this, we would be in a different position right now. If you're dealing with the economic issues, if you're dealing with the development issues, if you're dealing with healthcare, if you're dealing with education, we will not even be talking about this sharing of power. Who cares? Because everybody is focused on working to make sure that the country is being uplifted.
Exactly. I'm currently in school and I've been given a term paper about the debt situation in our country, and just doing research about it makes me want to go numb. We're not even discussing the extent to which we're literally to our eyeballs in debt. Who's gonna pay that? It's my 4-year-old child who's gonna pay that. That's the legacy that I want to leave him? Really? And we're here just talking about BBI?
Yep.
It's an embarrassment and it's a shame.
We asked Kwaiko Onyoike this question, whether does he think that this is, just a political tool being used to run a certain narrative and distract us from other narratives. And the reality, just like you're saying, the economic reality.
In this country, nothing is beneficial. Who is speaking for me?
Who is speaking for the people?
Who is speaking for the people?
Thank you very much.
I walk around my neighborhood and there's a lot of garbage. There's a lot of very substandard construction that's happening on the road.
Yes.
And that's what I'm paying taxes for.
Yep. And you're required to maintain the government by paying more taxes so that you can get that kind of shoddy service.
Exactly. Fuel, literally every single month is going up. I'm that chick who runs to the fuel station and I hear fuel tomorrow is going to go
down
up.
by 2 shillings.
Yes, I want to run and go. And I can tell you, I've had the same car for years and I felt the fuel increase by just how much I'm able to fill my tank.
Yeah.
It's a travesty, guys. It's really, really a shame.
Well said, Joanne. Thank you very much and have a good day.
Thank you.
Lydia in Parklands, good morning.
Yes, hello, Spice FM.
Hi.
Eric. I wanted to say that power sharing is a very bad talk. Power sharing is not right. Should be service sharing. And it is shame on Raila when he was the Prime Minister. He agreed he wanted the Constitution to be without Prime Minister. He agreed that he wanted the Constitution to be President. And now because he keeps getting 0 votes, losing, he now wants Prime Minister back and power sharing so BBI is wanting politicians to be dictatorship. This is not politicians' dictatorship. Kenya does not need politicians' dictatorship. Kenya needs service to the people to survive.
Absolutely.
Simply.
Thank you very much, Lydia.
Big power sharing. That is nonsense. Thank you.
Very well said. Asante sana, Lydia. Well, someone says, too many cooks spoil the broth. There should be no shared governance between political leaders. First, sets a bad precedence for future politicians who cannot take a loss. If we really wanted shared government, then I think we should have only 2 parties that way. All right? Becky is wondering, so if we go with all this argument of, winner take, and then the loser comes and all that, why have an election? What's the logic of having an election? Shiraga says the constitutional moment is when we move from a hybrid presidential system to a parliamentary system. Elections should be on parties and not individuals.
It's the issues, man. When people are complaining on a daily basis, and that's what I say. If you remove the individual from this entire equation, what's going to be staring you in the face? It's the issues. And if you've come from that basis, that you're coming into leadership to either make things better or to deal with the things that have been dogging this country for years, that is where people are going to judge you on. That is where the competition is going to come about. Who then is better placed to deal with these issues? But when we're talking about an individual and whether they should be compensated because they lost, what are we talking about? Who do you leave hanging in the balance? The millions of Kenyans who are looking up to the same leader to be able to get something done about their situation. Why? Why are we dealing with that?
Let's take a final call from Karaoke. Karaoke in Wakulima Market, Nakuru. Good morning.
Hello.
Hi, Karaoke.
Hello, how are you guys?
We're fine, thanks.
The only question I'm asking, remember when we were making the current constitution, Raila was there. In fact, he was the forefront doing it.
Yep.
But if you can recall, before 2007, in fact, after every election, there was something to do with the leader of opposition leader in parliament.
That's true.
What happened to him that he never considered that he can lose? Where was he to go? Because he was there, the greatest agitator of the current constitution, isn't it?
Yeah.
Now my question is, what happened that the constitution the way it is without him thinking one day he shall be out? Why? I mean, you are talking about the second person who gets the greatest share of the vote, right?
Yep.
He never considered that kind of a person. What confidence did he have that he will be the head of state or he win? What happened? By then he was blind. He did not know what will happen. That's my question. I've been asking this every now and then because he was the greatest agitator
for the constitution.
Of the change of the constitution.
The questions.
And I remember before the change of the constitution, in fact, he was doing it more better when he was in the opposition leader in parliament. Remember that?
Yeah.
That's my question. That's my issue with Raila Odinga.
Thank you, Karaoke. Have a good day. Well, the conversations will continue in coming days as well. This whole thing of diverting attention, diverting people's focus, because that's what I see this thing to be. It's clear to everybody that even if you got whatever kind of ruling you got, are you going to be able to have this required change that you want? Or is it just keeping us busy as you continue borrowing, as you continue misappropriating funds, as you continue
to deal with corruption
misallocating?
And,
the bigger corruption here.
Yeah. As you fail to deal with the big issues in the country, sitting here talking about issues that actually don't matter when you want to look at it. Who cares which individual sits there and people are hungry? Who cares which individual is sitting there and children cannot go to school? People cannot access healthcare. Who cares? And then you continue to bleed the country dry and corruption is still staring you at the face. Who cares who's sharing the government if you cannot deal with these matters that affect Kenyans' lives? Who cares? And I think that's what it should be. Deal with the real issues that we're facing with now.
If you took power and you did what you're supposed to do with the office that you've been given by the voters that have elected you, then we would not have an issue with who is at the top. We wouldn't. Thank you for tuning in to the Situation Room today. Join us again tomorrow morning from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. We'll have Wanjiru Gekonyo also joining us as guest host. We'll have very many interesting conversations. Just keep it right here for those. Today's proverb, it's a Swahili one. Kila chombo kwa wimbile. Kila chombo kwa wimbile. Every vessel has its own wave. Straightforward, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It is. So keep it right here. From now until 11, you have uninterrupted music, and then you have Sugar and Spice coming in at 11 until 3, and then Monique will be here from 3 o'clock, taking you home on Spice Drive. The adults in the room return every weekday, 7 p.m. to 10 p.m., and they'll be here today again. And then Nduoko and I will be back tomorrow. Have a good one. I hope the effects of the second dose of the COVID-19 vaccine wear off, and that tomorrow we'll have Ndu here.
I'm good.
Okay. Okay. Good morning, folks. It's now 10 a.m.
Spice up your life The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Morning, this is the Newswire. I'm Leah Ubaga. A 7-judge bench chaired by President of the Court of Appeal Daniel Musinga is currently hearing the BBI appeals